Chapter 681. I, the Supreme Overlord, have always been living my life according to my own wishes, and I rarely think about them. It's time for me to look at things from their point of view. As expected, after hearing Yi Hua's promise, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were extremely happy. As long as Yi Hua said it, he would not be able to run away. After all, Yi Hua was a Supreme Overlord, he would not lie. Come, let's go shopping, I haven't bought clothes and bags for a long time. Xianxia was already impatient, she really wanted to go shopping. Donghuang Baiji was the same. I heard that a lot of new goods have been released, Xianxia, we can't keep up with the times. Yi Hua still didn't know what they meant, they were blaming him. Let's go, call the little fellows. Yi Hua stood up and extinguished the cigarette butt. When the two little fellows heard that they were going out to play, they became very excited. They immediately changed their clothes, then dragged their mother who was putting on makeup and told them to hurry up. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had not gone out for a long time. Women's nature was to be beautiful, so they had to put on makeup and whatnot. Although there was no need for them to put on makeup and whatnot. However, Donghuang Baiji was now a public figure, and Yi Hua didn't want to cause any chaos, so he asked Donghuang Baiji to slightly change her appearance. She turned into Qin Yutong. This caused Donghuang Baiji to feel very depressed. I can't even use my original appearance when I go shopping with my husband. In actuality, Yi Hua was a bit selfish. If everyone were to know that I am the Empress's husband, who would dare to provoke me? Right now, Qing Tian is already dead, the only one who dares to play with my brain against me. What a pity. This kind of talent is very hard to find. This kind of talent has never appeared in the past. After changing into ordinary clothes, the family finally went out and went to Long and City's shopping center. 1 hour later, Yi Hua brought the two children and sat in a cold drink shop. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were drinking fruit juice, while Yi Hua was holding onto an ice cream cone and licking it from time to time. Going shopping with a woman is no different from committing suicide, and I actually agreed to this kind of thing. As expected, I can't be emotional. I was still too impulsive. Daddy, I'm so bored. Donghuang Li said while holding onto a big cup of fruit juice. Yi Yan let out a breath. I really don't know why mothers like to go shopping so much. Yena's legs are about to break. Yi Hua let out a light sigh. Your mother loves to go shopping the most and she won't come out for a few hours. Daddy, let's go and find something else to play with. Donghuang Li jumped down from her seat and pulled onto the corner of her father's shirt. Yi Hua felt that his daughter's suggestion was pretty good. Where are we going? As long as it is not here. Yi Yan begged in a low voice, expressing that Yi Yaner is most afraid of shopping malls, and that Yi Yan doesn't have to come here anymore in the future. Yi Hua agreed with his son's opinion. Let's go, Daddy will bring you two out to play. Oh yeah, alright. Yi Hua carried the two of them with each of his hands, and just like a stay-at-home dad, he walked out of the ice cream shop. You guys quickly take a look and see if Mom is here or not. Yi Hua said gravely, as if something big had happened. Donghuang Li and Yi Yan immediately became serious, and they began carefully observing the enemy in their surroundings. Daddy, if you didn't find Mummy, you can just slip away. Donghuang Li said in a low voice. Yi Hua's gaze became serious. All right. Yan, pay attention to the 9 o'clock direction. Ali, pay attention to the 6 o'clock direction. Report immediately when you see the enemy. Yes. Yes. The two little fellows accepted the order, and with an excited look on their faces, they slipped away with their father. Meanwhile, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were standing on the second floor. Looking at their husbands sneaking away with the two children, Xianxia's expression sunk. However, they also felt that it was funny to think that Yi Hua actually has such a side to him. He even said that he would accompany us, yet he couldn't even hold on for an hour. Donghuang Baiji said coquettishly. What a big liar, he doesn't keep his words. Xianxia said helplessly, 1 hour is already more than enough. In the past he would be called away in less than 10 minutes. Forget it, let's go shopping by ourselves. It is fortunate that you are here, if I was alone I would be bored to death. Haha, I am the same. The two women were holding hands and they were getting more and more harmonious. This was also the situation that Yi Hua wished to see. Yi Hua, who was carrying the two children, successfully escaped. Daddy, this is too fun, we escaped. Yi Yan clapped his hands and shouted excitedly. If I was caught by my mother just now, I would definitely be scolded. Donghuang Li was also grinning from ear to ear. Daddy, let's play more often in the future, alright? Yi Hua nodded his head. At the very most, I only taught them how to practice techniques, but I rarely interacted with the children. Today I had a sudden inspiration and played around with the children for a while. Such an action of mine definitely cannot be seen by others. If someone were to see it, I would definitely kill them to silence them. While carrying the two little fellows, Yi Hua stood on the busy street. There were many people walking to and fro on the street, but it was different from before. Right now, everyone's physique had improved and their complexions looked much better. Furthermore, there were many people who had the mark of strength on their chests. What stars? Moon. Nowadays, it doesn't matter if you have a car or a house, as long as you have a few stars, it would be fine. This was a world where the strong were respected, and even a rich person couldn't compare to a single star. This allowed some youngsters to see hope. Through their own efforts, they were able to reach the level of a cultivator and bring honor to their ancestors. Yi Hua was very satisfied with the current world. Everyone should have the right to pursue what they want. I, the Supreme Overlord, can bestow everything to you, but don't make the wrong choice. Once you make the choice to die, no one will be able to save you. A person who was wearing a bear mask was currently handing out leaflets, and Dong Huangli curiously took one of the leaflets. Big sister, what's on this? Yi Yan asked curiously. It's Long and City's gymnasium, which is currently holding a challenger tournament. Dong Huangli placed the leaflet in front of her father. Originally, Yi Hua didn't want to go and watch these boring things. I might as well go and watch a movie. Isn't there a new movie called Venom that was released recently? I heard that it is very awesome. However, looking at the children's expectant eyes, Yi Hua didn't have the heart to reject them. Let's go and take a look. Yi Hua nodded his head. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were extremely happy, and while hugging onto their father, Yi Hua's face was filled with saliva. Why would Yi Hua dislike his own children? And in the eyes of others, the relationship between father and son was really good. While carrying the two children, Yi Hua walked towards the gymnasium that was not far away from him. Just when he got close to the gymnasium, ear-deafening roars could be heard coming out from the gymnasium. This made Yi Hua think of the scene that happened on Blue Blaze Planet. The people on Blue Blaze Planet also like to watch duels like this. Seems like humans like duels like this. Chapter 682. Bringing along the two children, Yi Hua bought the tickets, and under his son's strong request, Yi Hua also bought popcorn, cola and Cheers lollipop. Walking into the gymnasium, deafening cheers sounded in their ears. The two little guys were very excited. They jumped out of their father's arms and looked inside the gymnasium. They saw a marble arena in front of them. Two warriors were fighting and people were waving tickets in their hands, cheering for their contestants. Yi Hua shouted out faintly, "Don't run around, follow me closely." Although the two little fellows were excited, they did not dare to ignore their father's words. They obediently followed behind their father and found their seats. Yi Hua slowly sat down while Dong Huangli and Yi Yan sat at the side. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were drinking cola while watching the fight. On the arena were two youngsters. Their strength levels were imprinted on their chests. They were both one star, belonging to the ranks of cultivators who had just stepped into the ranks of cultivators. A fight of such strength was nothing in front of the two little fellows, but the atmosphere at the scene was quite good. The two little fellows seemed to be in high spirits and began to cheer for their favorite opponents. Yi Hua took out a stick of cigarette and lit it up. This kind of fight is already boring to the extreme. However, the atmosphere is pretty good. At the very least, it is more interesting than accompanying my wife to go shopping. Sister, who do you think will win? Yi Yan sucked on the iced cola in his hand and asked curiously. Dong Huangli pursed her lips. It doesn't matter who wins, it's fine as long as we are happy. You're right. Yi Yan agreed with his sister's words. As long as he was happy, he didn't care who won or lost. Yi Hua naturally heard it, but he did not say anything. To be able to make my child happy is already an honor for you. However, if you want to make my child happy, you'll need to use your brain. As the competition continued, one of the men was punched out of the ring. The audience immediately cheered, but some sighed helplessly and tore the tickets in their hands. Looking at the situation, Yi Hua shook his head helplessly, then looked towards the children beside him, and saw that all of them had actually fallen asleep. At first, they were clamoring to come and watch, but now they were so bored that they were sleeping. When Yi Hua saw that Yener had fallen asleep while leaning on Ali, a trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. Yi Hua didn't wake up the children and just let them sleep. The second match soon began. Ladies and gentlemen, the battle between two moon class elites is about to begin. I'm sure it will be a great visual experience. Let's go. As the host shouted, moon class elites walked out from both sides. After hearing that, Yi Hua felt bored as well. What kind of visual enjoyment could a moon class elite have? After all, they had gotten used to the exciting life, and after a while they would be bored to death. If this went on, would he have to return early? However, when he thought about the child in his wife's womb, Yi Hua felt that it was better for him to stabilize the situation first. Yen-er is still young right now, and it would be beneficial for Yen-er to stay here and properly learn first. Supporting his chin with his right hand, Yi Hua's gaze was placed on the stage. The two people on the stage were exchanging blows with each other, and the two of them were releasing quite a bit of spiritual energy. Moon-class elites were too powerful. The people who were watching the battle were in awe, and they even looked at moon-class elites with admiration. Yi Hua's eyelids became a bit heavy, and the ash from the cigarette fell onto the clothes that he was wearing. The cigarette butt at the corner of his mouth also gradually extinguished. The father and son trio actually fell asleep in this kind of environment. It was simply unbelievable. Not knowing how much time had passed, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji walked out of the shopping mall while carrying big and small bags. The two looked at other people's boyfriends whose hands were filled with bags, and then looked at their own. I'm really envious. Xianxia smiled helplessly. In the past, I had also fantasized about having a boyfriend who would follow behind me and help me carry my bags. From the looks of it now, it is impossible for that to happen in this lifetime. Ah, Xianxia, you still have such a scary thought. Yi Hua would only help us carry our bags when the sun rises from the west. Donghuang Baiji teased. It is already not bad for a chauvinist like him to accompany you out for a walk. Xianxia smiled sweetly and said slowly, of course a girl would hope for a man to dote on her. Baiji, have you not fantasized about it before? Alright, I don't even dare to fantasize about it. It is getting late, it is time to go back and cook. Xianxia looked at her watch. It was already 5 p.m. Unknowingly they had actually strolled around for 3 hours. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head. Let's go and find them first and see what Yi Hua is doing with the kids. Xianxia sensed Yi Hua's aura and very quickly she found Yi Hua's location. The two women bought tickets and walked into the gymnasium. Right now the battle was still in full swing and the battle had not stopped at all. Yi Hua is actually bringing the kids to watch this. Xianxia said angrily. How old is Yen-er, and yet he is watching this kind of thing. Right now Donghuang Baiji was a lot more open-minded. It doesn't matter if they watch it, this is just a normal battle and there won't be any fatalities. Baiji, you have changed. In the past you were always standing on my side. Xianxia couldn't help but pinch the empress. Donghuang Baiji said in a low voice. Be careful, Yi Hua and I might join hands to bully you. Heg, let us wait and see then. Xianxia mercilessly retaliated, causing the empress to laugh continuously. All of the men in the gymnasium were looking at the competition, and none of them paid attention to what was happening over here. These two women are much more good-looking than the men on the stage. Holding hands, the two women found their husbands. However, when they saw the appearance of their husbands and children, they felt as if they were struck by lightning. Yi Hua could be seen sitting paralyzed on his seat without a care for his image, and unknowingly, the two little fellows were already lying on their father's body. The main point was that saliva was actually flowing out from the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. This was what caused Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji to be astonished. How could the two women let go of such an embarrassing situation? The two women immediately took out their phones and started taking photos of their husbands. You even said that we salivate when we sleep at night, but don't you look the same as us? Also, this sitting posture, where does it have the demeanor of a supreme overlord? It simply looks like. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't know how to describe it, but in any case it looks like an uncle. Looking at the Yi Hua in the photos, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji couldn't help but laugh out loud. Hearing that familiar laughter, Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes and subconsciously wiped the corner of his mouth, and his face twitched, his entire face darkened. Afterward, when he looked at his wives who were laughing, he felt that he had lost all of his face. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji waved their phones. Yi Hua, you won't be able to escape this time, right? Supreme Overlord who salivates, Hall. Chapter 683. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji stuck out their tongues. I won't delete it. That's right, that's right. It wasn't easy to capture it. Yi Hua took a glare at his wife. It seems like if you two don't delete the video, I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to fly into a rage. What are you glaring at, not accompanying us to go shopping and even throwing a tantrum? I still have to send this photo to the group. Xianxia snorted, then immediately sent the photo to the group. Not to be outdone, Donghuang Baiji even sent a video to the group. You. Yihua was stupefied. Are these two women itching for a beating? To actually dare to post my embarrassing state in the group. Yihua immediately took out his phone and opened up WeChat. Sure enough, there was a photo of him in the group and he was drooling. Her Majesty is even more amazing, Lai Gu. Oh my god, is this our boss? My worldview is ruined. Laughing emoji. Zhou Xian. Ah. My image of a male god in my heart has been destroyed, pitiful. Brett, your honor is so low, pouted mouth. Wei Chong. His honor is still as down to earth as always. Happy, Sun Fong. Your honor is so cute, picking his nose. Yi Zizi exclaimed, oh my god. What did I just see? That's saliva. Dongfang Yuer. Your wife really knows how to play, covering mouth. Yi Hong. Your honor, everyone is roasting me, I think it's better for me to not vomit. Laughing emoji. Qing Yutong. Brother-in-law, you actually ruined your image, crying emoji. Death mage, GGG. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were already laughing to the point that their stomachs were aching. This is how this WeChat group is. There is no hierarchy and everyone can freely roast each other. This is what Yihua said in the past. Meanwhile, when Yihua saw his subordinates ridiculing him in various ways, his lungs were about to explode from anger. He immediately sent an angry emoji, but not only did it not work, but the complaints became even worse. Yihua was angered to the point that he almost wanted to leave the group. I will properly teach you all a lesson in the future. Yihua kept his phone and looked at his wife. Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were also teasing their husband, and both of them kissed Yihua. Only then did Yihua feel a bit better. My wife's lips are so fragrant. The little fellow who was sleeping soundly was also woken up. Mom, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji carried the two children into their embrace, then kissed the two children, causing the two little fellows to be extremely happy. Mommy Yenner is hungry. Yi Yen pouted, looking like he was about to starve to death. Yes, Mom will go back and cook for Yen. Mummy is the best. Yenna likes Mummy the most. Yi Yen hugged onto his mother and acted coquettishly. Qingya was very happy, seems like I have bought over my son's stomach. Donghuang Baiji said lightly, Yihua, let's return. Yihua stood up, patted away the cigarette ash that was on his clothes, then said in a bored manner, let's go back. The family of 5 walked on the passageway and Yihua was yawning, looking as if he still hadn't woken up. However, just as the family was about to leave, a dragon roar suddenly sounded in the sky. This dragon cry caused everyone to be stupefied, and even Yihua stopped his footsteps, then slowly turned his body around and looked towards the sky. This? Qingya slightly wrinkled her eyebrows. This dragon roar is definitely not ordinary. Something bad is going to happen. Donghuang Baiji said in a deep voice. Her expression was very grave. Although it was just a single dragon roar, one could still feel it. It's very strong. Although Yihua went into a daze for a moment, he immediately came back to his senses. Right now, Yihua's heart was starting to become excited, and he was also feeling an unexpected joy. I, the Supreme Overlord, was feeling very depressed today. However, this dragon roar made me feel very happy. This is exactly the feeling that I want. Just based on this dragon roar. This dragon roar is the strongest that I, the Supreme Overlord, have ever met here. I wonder what kind of surprise this dragon roar will bring to me. Donghuang Li and Yi Yen were also looking at the sky. Right now, the sky was gradually turning red, just like the sunset. The sky had turned into a fiery red color. This sudden change caused the two cultivators on the stage to stop their footsteps, then raise their heads and look towards the sky. Everyone in the audience stood up and looked towards the abnormal scene that was happening in the sky. There were even some people who were discussing in low voices. I seem to have heard a dragon roar just now. Am I hallucinating? I also heard it just now, so you aren't hallucinating. Why did the sky become like this? It seems like the end of the world is coming. Could it be that something is coming? It can't be that another demon is coming, right? My God, why is it like this? Yihua took out a stick of cigarette and leaned on the cigarette, and a curious expression appeared on the corner of his mouth. When Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji saw the look on their husband's face, they immediately knew what Yihua was thinking. This enemy is completely tailor-made for Yihua. Heaven and earth had just died in the morning, but he was immediately replaced in the afternoon. It felt like the enemies were coming one after another. Roar. A dragon roar rang out once more, causing everyone's scalps to go numb. It was different from the previous roar. It was much closer this time. It was as if it was right beside his ear. Here, Yihua said faintly. In the red sky, an illusory figure appeared in everyone's field of vision. A giant red dragon was circling in the sky, displaying its strength and mighty body to the world. Really is a dragon. *CK I can't believe I've seen a dragon in my life. This is not a special effect. This is a real dragon. There really are dragons in this world. This is too unexpected. Shenrana. I want to make a wish. Yihua's gaze wasn't placed on the dragon's body, rather, it was placed on another item. There seemed to be something hanging on the dragon's sharp claws. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji both saw it. Compared to the Shenron, that black thing was even more worrying. When the Shenron gradually got closer, some people finally saw it clearly. This is a Shenron coffin pulling. There's actually such a thing? Seems like it only appears in novels. That's right, I have also seen it before. Other people's coffin pulling is called Nine Dragons pulling. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were very confused. They had no idea what that thing was. Yihua, what is that? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. Yihua said gravely, inside that coffin, there is a very powerful creature. Hearing what their husband said, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji became a bit gloomy. Because Yihua said that the creature inside was very powerful. If possible, the two women would love to hear their husbands say that although the creature inside was very powerful, it was still trash. However, Yihua didn't say anything about it. I just didn't say anything about it. Look at how worried the two of you are, I'm really speechless. The Shenron flew to the sky and the coffin that was below its claws loudly fell onto the ground. A dragon roar sounded out once again, and soon after the coffin flew towards the sky, as if it had never appeared in the first place. The sky returned back to its original color. Meanwhile, that coffin actually landed at the center of the stage and was deeply embedded into the marble floor. Chapter 684. Everyone's gaze looked towards the coffin and curiosity could be seen on their faces. Even Yihua was no exception. Is there a human or a monster inside the coffin? The two people on the stage took a glance at each other, then mustered up their courage and gradually approached the coffin. This action caused everyone to hold their breaths. Just what is going to happen? Strange patterns could be seen engraved on the surface of the coffin. The two looked at the patterns curiously. The patterns seemed to be a strange painting. In the painting there were 6 people holding weapons and facing an army. Yihua said faintly while smoking his cigarette. If I am not mistaken, this coffin should be a type of seal. Seal? Donghuang Baiji asked doubtfully. It's just that the seal is broken now. Yihua laughed lightly. Judging from the degree of the seal, it seems to be very strong. Xianxia was very curious. Then what is the meaning of the dragon just now? Let's make a hypothesis. This dragon is a species that was guarding the coffin, but after discovering that the seal disappeared, then. Yihua didn't finish his sentence. He wanted to hear what his wives thought. However, before Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji said anything, Donghuang Li said, then it threw this threat here and ran away by itself. My Ali sure is smart. Yihua caressed his daughter's face. This is just a hypothesis, I don't know the truth behind it. Yihua laughed, but Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't. Even a divine dragon is unable to contend against such a dangerous thing. Donghuang Baiji muttered. Yihua flicked the cigarette ash. Let's take a look first and see just what kind of person it is. The two women nodded their heads and continued to look at the stage. After the two people on the stage finished sizing up the coffin, they tried to use their hands to test the coffin. However, before the two people's hands could even touch the coffin, a strange aura was emitted out from the coffin. The two people's expressions changed and their bodies began twitching violently. Life force was being extracted from their bodies and fused into the coffin. In less than a few seconds, the two people fell onto the ground like skin and bones. Yihua felt that this move was a bit similar to Yi Zizi's, extracting blood essence. This move was extracting life force. The difference between the two wasn't too big. Seeing the two people on the stage die in an instant, the tens of thousands of people present were so shocked that they even forgot to run away. A golden barrier instantly enveloped the arena, and the host's voice was heard, "Everyone, don't panic. The barrier has been activated and the relevant personnel are rushing over." He had just finished speaking. The lid of the coffin fell down with a loud bang. From the heavy thud, one could tell that the weight was not ordinary. Even the marble was shattered. Yi Hua looked at the coffin in the darkness. Just who is it that walked out of the coffin? Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji became nervous. On the other hand, Donghuang Li and Yi Yan were excited just like their father. A strange picture scroll could be seen floating within the coffin. This phenomenon caused everyone to go into a daze. Even Yi Hua was surprised. A painting? Furthermore, it was a landscape painting, but at the bottom right corner of the painting, a person was sitting and fishing. This wasn't strange. What was strange was that the person who was fishing seemed to be moving. This painting. Could it be that it is also a layer of seal? Xianxia asked gravely. Donghuang Baiji nodded her head. It should be. This painting should be a powerful sealing treasure, and this coffin should be the same as well. There are 2 layers of seal on it. Just who is it? Furthermore, right now even the seal is gone. Xianxia muttered. Xianxia felt that the enemy this time was different from the ones in the past. A trace of a smile appeared on the corner of Yi Hua's mouth. Then he immediately retracted his smile and put on an extremely serious expression. Seems like the enemy this time is very, very strong. We're finished. Hearing their husband's tone, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji immediately lost their confidence. They had seen Yi Hua's strength before. He was simply a god that could kill gods, and right now he actually gave such an evaluation. Yi Hua, don't tease us. Just now it was our fault, you scared us. Xianxia squeezed out a smile and said tenderly. She hoped that her husband would take back what he said just now and have a more relaxed expression, as if he was facing a salted fish. Yi Hua laughed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face as he said gravely, I don't have any confidence in winning against the enemy this time. Although the seal has already dissipated, you two should still be able to feel the remaining power of the seal. To be able to break the seal while it is still in place, this kind of enemy is very strong. Donghuang Baiji's face collapsed. Yi Hua, what should we do then? Let's quickly return to Voidless Realm. Donghuang Baiji only wanted to protect her family. Voidless Realm was protected by a barrier and it was a lot safer for them. However, Yi Hua said mercilessly, Voidless Realm's barrier won't be able to defend against it. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji immediately felt bad. Looking at the stern expression on their husband's face, he doesn't seem to be joking. What should we do? What should we do? Yi Hua, let's move to Blue Blaze Planet. Xianxia immediately gave a suggestion. Since we can't win against the enemy, then let's not take any risks. After hearing what Xianxia said, the corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. You two want to run away so quickly? What's the rush? Right now, the outcome of the battle is still uncertain. Let's see how strong the enemy is first. Yi Hua didn't plan to go to Blue Blaze Planet. Daddy, I want to go and beat up the bad guy. Donghuang Li raised her fist. Ollie, don't mess around. Donghuang Baiji gave a stern lecture. Donghuang Li pouted her mouth. I hope that I can grow up quickly. That way I will be able to go onto the battlefield and help Daddy out. The painting that floated out from the coffin appeared in the eyes of tens of thousands of people. Although they didn't know what the painting meant, they still felt that it was very powerful. Suddenly, the person who was fishing in the painting stood up, put down the fishing rod in his hand, then turned his head and looked outside of the painting. With just a simple glance, everyone felt that they were about to stop breathing. This is so terrifying. Just a single glance from the other party possesses such great might. Even Yi Hua was a bit surprised. The opponent's strength is indeed very strong. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji had been observing their husband's expression, and their hearts were heavy. In their minds they couldn't help but think back to Wang Debao and his wife. The tragedy that happened to Wang Debao and his wife was because they met with the powerful me. Fai and Yi Hua also met with a powerful person. Doesn't that mean that I will have to walk on the same path as Wang Debao and his wife? Women sure are easy to overthink. Things haven't even happened yet and they are already thinking about the future. They are simply scaring themselves. With a smile on his face, the man in the painting took out a folding fan and lightly fanned himself. The mountains and rivers in the painting could be seen disappearing, and the painting turned into an ordinary piece of white paper. A stream of flames emerged from the painting, and the painting was instantly engulfed by the raging flames and turned into dust. Chapter 685. The man was tall, he had long eyebrows and a strand of silver hair flowed down from his sideburns to his chest, giving off a kind of unrestrained feeling. Coupled with that ordinary folding fan that he was holding, he looked just like an elegant scholar from ancient times. Especially that exquisite facial features of his as well as the curve of his mouth, he was simply a lady killer. Just like how many women at the scene were dazzled, this man is so charming, his temperament is so ethereal, I really want to be hugged and caressed by this kind of man. Swish, the man opened the folding fan in his hand, and a gust of wind immediately spread out. The barrier that humans were so proud of instantly shattered like glass. It was simply unable to withstand a single blow. Yihua felt that this man was indeed handsome, his hairstyle was pretty good, especially that strand of silver hair that flowed down, it was very charming. It seems like he is even more pretentious than me. Yihua secretly took a look at his two wives, only to see that their gazes were fixated on the man at the scene. This made Yihua feel very unhappy. You two are actually so shallow to actually be captivated by this kind of man. In the past you two would often say on the bed that I am the most handsome man in the world, but now, you two are actually looking at someone else. Sweet words on the bed don't even count. What are you looking at? Even your saliva is about to flow out. Yihua shouted out. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't act like what Yihua said, they were just sizing up the enemy. Just because they were a bit serious they were thought to be infatuated. Seeing that their husband was a bit jealous, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't say anything. You are the only one allowed to look at beauties, but your wife is not allowed to look at handsome men, what an overbearing man. This man seems to be very strong. Xianxia felt that the aura that the man was emitting out was the strongest aura that she had ever seen. Donghuang Baiji also had the same feeling. Yihua snorted in disdain, is he stronger than me? Yihua, didn't you say that you don't know? Xianxia asked curiously. Yihua was actually speechless. If I said that I am stronger than him, why would I be worried? Don't you know how hard it is to live a happy life? Donghuang Baiji consoled Yihua in a low voice. Yihua, it doesn't matter, even if he is a bit weak our hearts will not change. After all we have a child already. Yihua, why do I feel like I have lifted up a rock and smashed my own foot again? Why do I always do such foolish things? Donghuang Li consoled her father. Daddy, failure is the mother of success. You have to train hard like Ali, only then will you be able to become stronger. And sister is right. Dad, you have to work hard. Otherwise Yener will catch up. Yan also cheered his father on. Yihua felt that his head was about to explode. I, the Supreme Overlord, am merely creating a type of oppressive atmosphere and you all actually think that I am incapable of doing so. Forget it, now that the car had started, how could it overturn halfway? Looking at the disappointed look on her husband's face, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were very worried. For a man who has such a strong ego to suddenly discover that there is another kind of strength in him, how is he going to be able to accept this? Everyone turned to look at the arena again. The man waved the folding fan in his hand and slowly rose into the sky. His gaze was sizing up his surroundings and this unfamiliar world. I am Luo Ho. Nan Wuqi, one of the 5 banners. I am very happy to see the light of day for the first time today. When the banner master returns I will definitely unify the world. Right after Luo Ho finished speaking his figure disappeared. Although it was just a short sentence, the information that was revealed was simply too much. Everyone was extremely shocked. This is completely a blatant threat. The witch incident had just ended and now, a Nan Wuqi has appeared. It seems to be even more terrifying than the witch. What is going on with this world? Xianxia mumbled. Nan Wuqi. Luo Ho, one of the 5 banners. The banner master has returned. The world is really going to change. Donghuang Baiji said solemnly. This is not just one person. This is just one of the 5 banners and there is still a banner master behind him. If just one banner master is already so powerful, then what kind of existences are the other 4? And what kind of strength does that banner master have? With an irritated expression on his face, Yihua lit up another stick of cigarette. This is very troublesome. Yihua, the opponents this time are different from the ones in the past. Are you able to find out where they came from? Donghuang Baiji asked curiously. She definitely hoped that her husband would be able to grasp the movements of the opponents. After all, only by knowing oneself and knowing the enemy can one emerge victorious in every battle. Yihua has never heard of Nan Wuqi before. If this is the case, then there can only be two possibilities. Either this Nan Wuqi appeared earlier than me, or this Nan Wuqi came from another region. However, in the entire Milky Way galaxy, Blue Blaze planet represents the progress of civilization, while Blue Luo continent represents strength. If there really is such a powerful force in the galaxy, it is impossible for me to not know about it. The possibility of it coming from another region is not high. This should be a question left behind by history, and this person appeared earlier than me. I can go and ask Zhou Xian about this matter. I heard that Zhou Xian has done some research on the history of the gods. Seems like I will have to attend another meeting soon. The opponents this time are indeed very powerful. I didn't lie to Donghuang Baiji and Xianxia about this. However, it is precisely because of this that the opponents are interesting. If the opponents were to fall every single time, what fun would that be? I, the Supreme Overlord, need a powerful opponent no matter if it is a brain or a body. I don't know for the time being. Let's go back first and discuss the countermeasures. Yihua said gravely. I still have to investigate the information of the opponents clearly. I cannot underestimate them. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads, and the family immediately left the scene and returned to Voidless Realm. After coaxing the two children to go out and play, Yihua first held a family meeting, and this time he even called his sister-in-law over for the meeting. After all, his sister-in-law can also be counted as my woman. I have already done everything that I should do, and the only thing that I am lacking is the last thing that I need to do. Furthermore, I have always wanted to accept my sister-in-law as my wife. Yihua and his two wives sat on the chair and waited for Qin Yutong to come over. Not long after, Qin Yutong's ghost cry could be heard. Brother-in-law, this is bad, something big has happened, should we move? Yihua, Xianxia, Donghuang Baiji. From the looks of it, even Qin Yutong knew that the problem wasn't simple. Yutong, how many times have I said it? Don't make such a big fuss over nothing. You are a virtuous lady. Xianxia lectured. If you act so carelessly, how is it possible for you to find a husband? Qin Yutong pouted her mouth, indicating that my man is currently sitting there. I have already made up my mind that I shouldn't act so carelessly in this lifetime. I got it, did you guys know? Today 5 strange things happened all over the world. Divine dragon pulling coffin, isn't it awesome? I even have a video here. Qin Yutong said while holding onto the tablet that was in her hand. Donghuang Baiji asked gravely, 5 strange things? Chapter 686. That's right, big sister Baiji, don't you know? Qin Yutong asked back. Donghuang Baiji said gravely, but we only met each other. Qin Yutong shook her head. You guys, although the world is different now, it is still the internet era after all. You guys are really too outdated. Yihua said faintly, play it out. All right. Qin Yutong played the video out, and there was even a commentary. This one appeared in High Ocean City's Times Park. The video at the scene should have been taken by a kind-hearted person. Right now everyone was having fun, and suddenly a dragon roar sounded out. Not long later the same situation appeared, and a black coffin also fell down. Everyone was watching curiously and were very vigilant, so there were no casualties. Yihua was just curious if there was a painting inside the coffin. As the lid of the coffin was opened, a very strange thing appeared. It kind of looks like a jar. The kind of big jar used to store pickles. As the jar fell onto the ground, it instantly broke into pieces, and a pool of water flowed all over the ground. A strange thing happened. That pool of water seemed to have a life of its own. It actually gradually gathered together, then formed into a human figure. That curvaceous and sexy figure could be clearly seen. In the next second, Yihua's expression became a bit stupefied. What an evil mosaic. Motherf *****. Do you know what is the evilest thing in this world? That is mosaic. I haven't trained to the point where I have no code in my heart yet. This woman was indeed a bit beautiful. There was no need to talk about her fair skin. Her entire body was made of water. She was a woman with a lot of water. Her exquisite facial features made people restless. Her gaze carried gentleness. She did not look like that kind of evil person. However, the woman said slowly, I am Yu Hua, one of the 5 banners of Nan Wuqi. It is my honor to appear here. I look forward to meeting you guys next time. After finished speaking, Yu Hua smiled sweetly, then disappeared. If there was no mosaic, Yi Hua would give full marks. But with that evil mosaic, Yi Hua didn't want to give any marks. His mood was already bad. Afterward, Qing Yutong played the second video and said, "Brother-in-law, this happened in Nanyang City. The scene seemed to be in an internet cafe. The person who filmed the video should be surfing the internet. There was a big hole in the roof, the black coffin crushed a lot of computers, and the boss was still scolding over there. Who the fuck threw the coffin everywhere?" Yihua only wanted to know what was inside. As the coffin was opened, Yihua and his wives stared at the screen. After waiting for a long time, no one came out. However, he didn't see the person, but he could hear the voice. "I'm White Bones, one of the 5 banners of the Nameless Banner. Get ready to welcome the Banner Master back." Then there was silence. Xianxia wrinkled her brows and asked doubtfully, Is this a human?" "Big sister, this should be an invisible one." Qing Yutong rolled her eyes at her big sister. "You don't even know about this, aren't you too backward?" However, Xianxia was very confused. Even if Xianxia was invisible, Xianxia would still be able to find a flaw in Xianxia's disguise. However, this man that Xianxia saw just now didn't have any flaw at all. This invisibility is different from ordinary invisibility. It should be a type of alien race. Yihua said gravely. Wei Chong and the others are the same as well. They all possess unique physiques. Seems like this invisible man is the same as well. He is completely in the air, and as long as there is air, he seems to be undying. It was indeed very powerful. I'm looking forward to that flag master more and more. Dong Huang Baiji's complexion was a bit bad, and she was very worried about what would happen next. Qing Yutong continued to play. This incident happened in Long'an City. Yihua said indifferently, "This one jumped, we have already seen it before." "Alright then." Qing Yutong changed to another one and smiled. This incident happened in the northeast. A ski resort could be seen appearing on the screen, and the situation was the same as the others. First, a dragon roar, then a coffin that descended from the sky. But the coffin was rather heavy and it directly sank into the snow. This made Yihua rather speechless. This guardian beast is really not attentive at all. It's fine if it threw these scourges here, but it is still so irresponsible. It is just like throwing rubbish everywhere. Yihua and his 2 wives watched the video just like that. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Is it going to come out or not? Yihua couldn't help but shout out. Qing Yutong laughed. I forgot to speed up. It only reached the climax at the 15th minute. Hurry up. Yihua said gloomily. His eyes were already sore from staring at the video. As Qing Yutong fast-forwarded the video, she finally saw the main topic and her hair was about to fall off from waiting. Finally, there was some movement from within the snow pit and a big hand appeared in the video. Yihua's brows slightly wrinkled. "It's a man. Boring. And it's a tall and sturdy man. It's even more boring." Next. Yihua couldn't help but say. "I simply can't bear to watch this anymore. It's too ugly. It's so ugly that it affects my mood." Looking at Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji's expressions, it's really so ugly that it can shake the world. This is not discrimination. That face is really twisted together and it looks just like a monster. And it even has 4 limbs and that buck teeth. My god. You don't even need to fight like this and you can directly disgust your opponent to death. Qing Yutong smiled. "Brother-in-law, wait a bit, there will be a surprise." Yihua endured the pain in his heart and continued to watch the video. I still believe in Qing Yutong. The man in the video could be seen speaking. 1 minute later. Yes. 1 minute later. Song. 1 minute later. D. 1 minute later. Red. Qing Yutong was already laughing to death at the side, while Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji's expressions stiffened. A drop of sweat had even appeared on Yihua's forehead. I have never been this anxious before. I just wanted to hear what he said, and in the end he said 5 words for 5 minutes. My god. I, the Supreme Overlord, do not want to have any contact with him. He can simply torture me to death. Qing Yutong continued to the next video. Brother-in-law, this happened in Zijin City. Looking at the video, the location should be at the garbage dump, and the person who took the video should be a worker. It was still a dragon's roar, then with a clang the coffin fell down. After waiting for a minute, the coffin lid opened and a person could be seen walking out from the coffin. Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji's mouth twitched, seemingly a bit afraid. Even Qing Yutong, who had seen it once, got close to her big sister. This is the fear that comes from a girl's heart. Yihua had never seen such a situation before. This is basically not a human. This is a scarecrow and its body is covered with yellow grass. The main point is that the facial features on its face are all real. Chapter 687. I. 5 flags. 1. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched. Stuttering? One slow, one stuttering. How can there be such weirdos? This group of people is truly a bit special. Kuang Sha, who was in the form of a scarecrow, swayed as he walked, and the video could be seen to be trembling intensely. However, nothing happened and Kuang Sha disappeared from the video. Qin Yutong turned off the video and said gravely, "Brother-in-law, big sister Baiji, this group of people is different from before." Yi Hua did not deny it, and Qin Ya and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads. This group of people did not do anything bad when they descended, and only that Luo Ho killed 2 people. To be more precise, it was not Luo Ho who killed the 2 people, rather the 2 people were absorbed by the coffin. Just what are they doing here? Qin Ya asked puzzledly. Yi Hua said faintly, "Qin Ya, it's not what they are doing here, it's what they want to do." "Killing people is not what they want to do," Donghuang Baiji mumbled. "Brother-in-law, we are here to find out their origins, only then will we be able to deal with the problem," Qin Yutong suggested. What sister-in-law said was right, this group of people was very strong, and if there was to be a division of strength, then these 5 people's strength had reached superior supreme. Such a group of strong people was even sealed, presumably, the person who sealed them must be even stronger. However, why didn't they directly kill them, or could it be that they are basically unkillable? "I'm going out for a while," Yi Hua said faintly. "Zishan came from the god's realm, I can ask her if she knows about it." "Yi Hua, we will go with you." Qin Ya stood up and said. "My husband never brings me to a meeting, I am a little depressed, as if he doesn't trust his wife." Donghuang Baiji also looked like she wanted to go. Yi Hua remained silent for a moment, then said, "Come." Hearing that her husband agreed, the 2 wives smiled. Qin Yutong was also very happy. "Brother-in-law did not treat me as an outsider." The 4 of them directly arrived at Leisure Bar. Blood Demon was currently cleaning the bar, and when he suddenly saw his honor and his wives, he hurriedly bowed down and shouted, "Subordinate pays his respect to his honor and your wives." Qin Yutong, who was at the side, was overjoyed. The Blood Demon Elder knows how to speak, and he even counted me as one of the Blood Demon Elder's wives. Yi Hua nodded his head, then picked up his phone and sent a message in the WeChat group. "Meeting. The same old place." For such a serious matter, the subordinates still treated it seriously. Jokes were jokes and business was business. 1 minute later, all of the subordinates had arrived and were standing respectfully. Even Brett had appeared while carrying absolute heaven. "Subordinates, pay respect to your honor, pay respect to your honors, madams." The subordinates kneeled on the ground to express their respect and admiration. Yi Hua said faintly, "All of you get up." "Thank you, your honor." Yi Hua shouted out, "Yutong, go and turn on the television." "Yes, brother-in-law." Qin Yutong picked up the remote control and turned on the TV. Right now, every TV station was broadcasting the 5 strange incidents, causing everyone to be panic-stricken. Just this afternoon, there were 5 supernatural incidents across the country. 5 coffins were thrown down by the divine dragon, and 5 strange people appeared. Their strength is unknown, and they call themselves as the South Waveless Flag. Up till now, the Flag Master has yet to appear and 2 people have already died. I don't know if their appearance is a blessing or a disaster. I hope that Voidless Realm can give everyone an explanation. I will continue to follow up and report to everyone. The subordinates looked at the television silently. In actuality, with how big this matter was, everyone already knew about it. However, Yi Hua still wanted to let everyone take a look at the television. Seems like everyone is hoping that Voidless Realm will send out a message or capture those people. After all, those people are outsiders and I don't know what their goal is. After turning off the television, Yi Hua sat on the high chair, while his 2 wives stood obediently at the side. Qin Yutong was the same as well. However, everyone discovered that in the past Qin Yutong was always standing with the subordinates, and today Qin Yutong was standing behind his honor. Doesn't this mean that his honor has already married his sister-in-law? Wow, his honor is so daring, isn't he afraid of being scolded by his wife? At such a serious time, the subordinates were indeed thinking about his honor's safety. As expected of loyal subordinates, Qin Ya and the others didn't interrupt. As the wives of the Supreme Overlord, they only need to listen to his honor's words. "I mustn't let my husband lose face in front of my subordinates. I will teach him a lesson when we go back." Yihua didn't know what his subordinates were thinking about and he asked, "Everyone should know about today's matter. Speak, what suggestions do you have?" Dou Fushi, who was among the subordinates, immediately took a step back. From the previous lesson, when his honor is asking a question, don't ever interrupt. Li Hun, who was at the side, looked at her husband's actions confusedly. This is the time to show off. Why is he taking a step back? Thus, Your Honor, little Daodu has a suggestion. Li Hun shouted out. Dou Fushi's entire body stiffened as he looked at little Daodu in disbelief. Is there anyone who would scam me like this? The subordinates all had an expression of taking joy in Dou Fushi's misfortune. Yihua looked towards Dou Fushi, who was at the back, and asked faintly, "What suggestion?" Dou Fushi even had the heart to die. Little Daodu is good in everything, obedient, but forget it, right now saving myself is more important. Your Honor, subordinate thinks that we should wait and see. Dou Fushi hurriedly said. I feel that this suggestion is reasonable and there shouldn't be any problems with it. In actuality, Yihua also wanted to wait and see what exactly Dou Fushi was planning to do. Brett, what do you think? Yihua asked Brett. Brett was carrying on to Zhu Tian, who was in despair. From Zhu Tian's expression, it could be seen that Zhu Tian had already been tamed by the three women and was no longer resisting. Brett's gaze turned cold as he said respectfully, "Reporting to Your Honor, subordinate thinks that we can test Zhu Tian out." Yihua also felt that this suggestion was fine, but wasn't it a bit too rash to test Zhu Tian out? After all, it wasn't easy for us to meet a powerful opponent. Yihua nodded his head and Brett respectfully retreated. South Wuxia. Do any of you know about it? Yihua asked faintly. Xian, who was in the group, wrinkled her brows. From her expression she seemed to know about it, but she wasn't sure. Xian, you were from God's realm in the past, why don't you say something? Yihua asked gravely. Your Honor, little Daodu was from God's realm in the past as well. Dou Fushi immediately raised his hand and shouted out. Since little Daodu is trying to scam me, then I should return the favor. Li Hun glared at little Daodu sweetly. Stingy fellow, to even want to scam your own wife. This made Yihua a bit surprised. Is Li Hun also from God's realm? I don't know about it. Chapter 688. Li Hun replied respectfully, Your Honor, subordinate has never heard of a power called South Wuxia. When Yihua heard Li Hun's words, he was slightly disappointed. When Li Hun appeared, his overall strength was stronger than Xian's. From this, it could be seen that Li Hun had lived longer than Xian. Xian, do you know? Yihua asked gravely. Xian said in a low voice, Reporting to Your Honor, subordinate is also not sure if it is true or not. Tell me about your knowledge. Yes. Xian took a deep breath, then said respectfully, I used to like reading ancient books. One day, I happened to be reading some books in the king's study room, and I found a parchment paper. The words Nan Wuqi were mentioned in it. Yi Hong's expression, who was at the side, stiffened. My wife's ex-boyfriend. Not boyfriend but husband. In actuality, Xian also cared about her husband's feelings, which was why she was hesitating just now. However, since his honor asked her about it, could it be that she should lie to him? Continue. Yihua's interest was piqued, and even the three women behind him were curious. Of course, his subordinates were also present. After all, a powerful opponent had finally appeared, so they had to treat him seriously. Xian said in a low voice, Because that parchment was damaged, the information on it is not very complete. This Nan Wuqi is a person from the Great Desolate Era. He is a group of 6 people, the Banner Master and the 5th Banner Master. They like to challenge strong opponents and they don't care about the weak. Yihua felt that these 6 people's way of thinking was a bit similar to his. Challenging the impossible and in the end being besieged by a group of powerful people, they managed to break the seal while Yihua had reincarnated. Not only that, they were people from the prehistoric era. Interesting. I heard that the people from the prehistoric era were all annihilated in a great battle. They should have been sealed and thus escaped the calamity. Sure enough, the opponent this time is very strong. I am a bit excited now. Moreover, they like to challenge the strong. There was no need to look for them at all. They would naturally come knocking on their door. However, Yihua was thinking about a very important matter. If my subordinate were to fight with those 5 people, who would win and who would lose? Like the Green and Red brothers, they had only strengthened their strength. They didn't know any moves and they didn't have any combat experience, so they probably wouldn't be a match for him. This time things are really a bit tricky. I, the Supreme Overlord, have to think about it properly. Everyone is on standby 24/7. Wait for my command. Yi Hua shouted out. Yes. All the subordinates shouted in unison. Disperse. After his subordinates left, Yi Hua brought his wife and sister-in-law back to Voidless Realm. Yi Hua, should we inform the outside world about this? Dong Huang Baiji asked curiously. There's no need for that. Do I, the Supreme Overlord, need to explain everything to others? What a joke. Dong Huang Baiji didn't ask anything else. Right now, everything was up to her husband. I'm a bit hungry, Yi Hua said. Qingya laughed tenderly, and I will go and cook for you. Yi Hua nodded his head, then sat in the garden and pondered. These 5 people are much stronger than what I imagined them to be. Also, just what kind of trash is that flagmaster? For him to be able to become their leader, he should be even more valiant. The whole thing was getting interesting. I wish Atlas was still here. What a pity. On the other hand, the 5 banners of Nameless Banner had already gathered together. At first glance there were only 4 of them. There was only one that was not visible. The 5 of them sat in a small forest, and a fire was burning in the middle of the forest, which was emitting out sizzling sounds. Luo Ho waved his folding fan and said with a slight smile on his face, "The air outside sure is good." Yes. Everyone waited for a minute. Ah. Song Kong Hong said slowly. The other 4 people didn't interrupt Song Kong Hong. They were all used to Song Kong Hong's way of speaking, and this was also a type of respect. Yu Hua was the only female in the group, and right now she was also wearing her clothes. Under the illumination of the fire, her beautiful face looked exceptionally gentle and beautiful, especially the smile that was hanging on the corner of her mouth. It looked very comfortable. How long have we been sealed for? These were the words that came from the white bones, and it seemed as if it came from the air. It was extremely strange. Because it should have been a very long time. Scarecrow Wild Sand said intermittently, and its tone seemed to be a bit stupid. However, one mustn't look down on it. Although it stuttered, Wild Sand's strength could be ranked in the top. Although Tsong Kong Hong spoke slowly, his strength was the strongest out of the 5 people. While Scarecrow Wild Sand was ranked second, Yu Hua, who was made of water, was ranked third, Luo Ho, who was made of air, was ranked fourth, and White Bones, who was made of air, was ranked fifth. Although White Bones was ranked fifth, its strength was enough to make one speechless. It should be about time. Yu Hua laughed lightly. The other 4 people paused for a moment. It is time to summon the Flag Master out. A gale blew over and extinguished the fire. The only light in the fire disappeared, and the surroundings sunk into darkness. The 5 people stood at the 5 corners and formed a formation. Attract the power of the sky. Yu Hua shouted out. Attract the light of the earth. White Bones shouted out gravely. Attract the soul of the underground. Luo Ho shouted out gravely. Wu. Song Kong Hong shouted out. Because he was speaking, he only managed to say one word. Lord. Holy light. Earth. The stuttering Wild Sand shouted out while stuttering. In the pitch-black sky, a black hole suddenly appeared. The 5 people raised their heads and looked towards the black hole, and their eyes revealed out expectations. In actuality, the one who sealed the Flag Master was none other than the 5 of them. This was not a betrayal, it was an absolutely safe way to deal with the Flag Master. What they were waiting for was precisely this day. A figure could be seen appearing from within the black hole. She seemed to have fallen into a deep sleep as she slowly descended. Along with the descent of the figure's appearance was revealed. It was a girl and couldn't be counted as a woman. From her figure, it could be seen that the girl's height was estimated to be less than 160 centimeters, and her body seemed to have yet to develop properly. Compared to Yu Hua, the girl was like a poached egg. Although the little girl's figure wasn't up to standard, her face indeed possessed an astonishing beauty. Although it couldn't shock you at first glance, as long as you look at her more and more, you would feel that she was more and more beautiful. The little girl lightly laid on the grass, and the 5 people respectfully stood at the side, waiting for the Flag Master to wake up. After a long while, the little girl's eyebrows slightly trembled. The 5 people respectfully knelt down and shouted out loudly, "Welcome back, Flag Master." The little girl suddenly opened her beautiful eyes. Those were a pair of ice-like eyes, causing people to exclaim endlessly in admiration. There are still such eyes in this world, they are really beautiful. Coupled with that unique face of hers, bonus points. Chapter 689. Maybe it was because they hadn't talked for a long time. The little girl seemed a little uncomfortable. Yuhua's eyes were a little red. Flagmaster, we broke the seal and summoned you. The little girl went into a daze for a very long time, her gaze turned from perplexed to liveliness, and the smile on her face became deeper and deeper. Yuhua. The little girl cried out in surprise and threw herself into Yuhua's arms at a strange speed as if she loved her very much. Yuhua gently stroked the little girl. Flagmaster, we are finally together again. The little girl nodded and looked at the scarecrow Wild Sand who was at the side. She also pounced on him. Big idiot, I missed you so much. Kuang Sha's strange face actually revealed a smile, which was even more horrifying. After leaving Kuang Sha's embrace, the little girl said to the air, White Bones, I missed you very much. White Bones also wants to be the flagmaster, said the voice in the air. The little girl laughed happily and pounced towards Luo Ho. Hee, everyone is finally out. Luo Ho smiled and patted the flagmaster's shoulder. The little girl immediately pounced at Blue Sky Hong. It's so good to have you guys here. I can play again. Flagmaster, you can't always think about playing around, Yuhua said respectfully. This made the little girl a little depressed. Why can't I play? I just want to play. It seemed that this flagmaster hadn't grown up yet. Her personality was even more immature than Yi Zizi's, only knowing how to play. 5 flags naturally knew flagmaster's personality. Seeing that flagmaster was no different from before, the 5 of them were very happy. Flag leader, you have to listen to us. Otherwise we will ignore you. Yuhua smiled gently like a mother. Hearing such a threat, the little girl immediately pouted her little mouth, looking very unhappy, the kind that couldn't be coaxed. I'm hungry. The little girl pouted her little mouth and said. Luo Ho chuckled. Flagmaster, let's go home and cook. Hey. I want Big Idiot to cook. The little girl clapped her hands excitedly and even jumped up and down. What kind of demeanor did she have? Kuang Sha nodded with a strange smile. Luo Ho took out something from his cosmo sack and threw it forward. Boom boom boom. An earth-shaking explosion suddenly sounded and resplendent white smoke appeared. When the white smoke dissipated, an endless staircase appeared before the 6 of them. Above the staircase was a palace. A huge signboard was erected on top of the stairs. Namwuji. The little girl leaped onto Song Kong Hong's shoulder and the 6 of them walked up the stairs. The 6 of them moved extremely quickly, reaching the top of the stairs in less than a breath's time. From here they could see the galaxy directly and it was a beautiful sight. The little girl said in a daze, So beautiful, I really like this place. Kuang Sha respectfully said, Flagmaster, I'll go cook first. Big Idiot, hurry up. I'm very hungry, said the little girl as she rubbed her belly. Yes, Flagmaster. Luo Ho, go and pull out the table. We'll sit here and eat. The little girl continued to give orders. Yes, Flagmaster. The eyes of the little girl who was sitting on Song Kong Hong's shoulder became deep. She mumbled, I wonder if there are any more powerful opponents. Flagmaster, there will be one, Yuhua said softly. That's good, hug. The little girl stretched out her hands towards Yuhua. Yuhua smiled sweetly, then hugged onto the Flagmaster. The little girl's name was Kai Yun. Right now, in Voidless Realm, Xianxia had already finished cooking, and the whole family was currently enjoying a sumptuous dinner. Just that, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't seem to be that happy. Wasn't it all because of the sudden appearance of Nan Wuqi? Nan Wuqi was a terrifying existence from the prehistoric era. For him to suddenly appear in this world was like a bug. Furthermore, the current situation was even more serious. This kind of anomaly had already spread to every corner of the world. Everyone in the world knew that the anomaly of a divine dragon pulling a coffin had appeared in China. One after another, everyone expressed their curiosity and wanted to get to the bottom of it. However, most of them were just watching from the sidelines. In any case, this matter doesn't concern us, so why should we get involved in it? Right now, all of the pressure was on Voidless Realm. If Qing Tiandi didn't act impulsively today, this would have been the best opportunity for him. Unfortunately, Qing Tiandi chose to fight against Yi Hua alone. Mom, why are you only eating? Yana will help you get some food. Yi Yan stood on the stool and helped his mother get some food. Xianxia came back to her senses and said with a gentle smile, Yan is so obedient. Mom, don't worry, Dad will be able to handle it. Yi Yan worshipped his father brainlessly. No matter how strong the enemy was, his father would always be able to defeat the enemy. Xianxia looked towards her husband and discovered that Yi Hua had a gloomy look on his face. This was a situation that had never happened before. Yi Hua knew that Xianxia was looking at him, so he didn't say anything and continued eating his meal silently. It was as if he couldn't win. Dong Huang Baiji placed down the bowl in her hand. After thinking for a bit, she decided not to say anything and continued eating her meal. Looking at her big sister and the Empress's worried look, Qin Yutong felt that it was funny. It has already been so long, and the two of you still don't understand brother-in-law? He is clearly just pretending, he just wants the two of you to worry a bit. The two of you are really idiots, or rather the IQ of a pregnant woman is 0. After eating, Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji went to rest early, and they even dragged Yi Hua to sleep early. Yi Hua knew that the two of them had something to talk about. Under the resentful gaze of the two children, Yi Hua accompanied his wife to sleep. The three of them laid on the spacious bed and the atmosphere was a bit stifling. Dong Huang Baiji took the lead and asked, Yi Hua, tell me the truth, can you do it or not? That's right, we are always worried about you. Xianxia followed up and said. If her husband wasn't confident, they were prepared to think of another way. Yi Hua let out a breath, then said faintly, What? You two became so terrified after meeting a strong opponent. You two truly disappoint me. Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji just didn't want Yi Hua to take any risks. After all, Yi Hua was the pillar of the family and the father of 4 children. If something were to happen to Yi Hua, how were they going to continue living? Yi Hua, don't make fun of us, we are really worried about you. Xianxia had a depressed look on her face. It has been a long time since she felt like this. Yi Hua patted on the shoulders of his 2 wives. Can the two of you have more confidence in me? Seems like I am going to lose right now. Smile for us to see then. Dong Huang Baiji said seriously. Ever since the appearance of Nan Wiki, her husband had never smiled and his face had always been tense. Yi Hua's confidence was their confidence, and her husband was the sky in their hearts. Right now even the sky was dispirited, how could they be happy? Chapter 690. However, Xianxia and Dong Huang Baiji didn't believe their husband at all, and thought that he was comforting them. This time Yi Hua was at his wit's end. If I had known earlier I wouldn't have scared them. Seems like I shot myself in the foot again, I still have to coax them. Alright, talk less, kiss more. After finished speaking, Yi Hua hugged the Empress into his embrace and tasted her soft lips. After tasting the Empress, Yi Hua began tasting Xianxia's cherry lips. It has been a long time since I kissed my wives and I'm feeling a bit excited. Xianxia felt her husband's action and said bashfully, Yi Hua, what are you doing? Shoo, I'm making you two feel comfortable. Xianxia couldn't help but moan, and a feeling of satisfaction emerged from the bottom of her heart. Dong Huang Baiji looked at the 2 people beside her blankly. They actually did it in front of me. Yi Hua hugged the Empress into his embrace and kissed her lightly. Don't think about those things, it's fine as long as we are happy. Yi Hua, you, Dong Huang Baiji was extremely bashful. I actually let a wolf into my house tonight. When that feeling of satisfaction appeared, some of the vexing things immediately disappeared. Yi Hua was also quite satisfied. I finally completed one of my life's biggest goals. The day that I have been looking forward to has finally arrived. This is all thanks to Nan Wuxia, you two really are my lucky stars. After comforting both of his wives, Yi Hua was also satisfied. I finally became a real man for once and I feel pretty good. While hugging onto his 2 wives who were in deep sleep, Yi Hua silently thought of Nan Wuxia. Interesting, this time around I won't be disappointed. Early morning, Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes, and the beautiful women beside him were no longer there. The Empress is definitely dealing with Voidless Realms matters. Although Voidless Realm isn't big, there are still a lot of matters waiting for Dong Huang Baiji's orders every day. Xianxia is definitely preparing breakfast for everyone. You woke up? Quickly come out and eat breakfast. Xianxia walked over with a gentle smile, and there was even a blush on her face, making her look extremely beautiful. Yi Hua hooked his finger at Xianxia, looking very flirtatious. Xianxia rolled her eyes at her husband, then walked over leisurely. Yi Hua held onto Xianxia's small hand, then slightly exerted force and pulled Xianxia into his embrace, then kissed her. Xianxia, why are you so charming? Yihua laughed lightly. Xianxia said petulantly, I let you have your way, you bastard. But Yihua laughed out loud. I like Xianxia's coquettish look the most. You're still laughing? Last night was just an exception. In the future, don't even think about it. Xianxia said bashfully and couldn't help but pinch Yihua a bit. What a man who gets carried away. Yihua's expression sank. It's not up to you all to decide. Alright, you're the boss. Can't you get up? No. After speaking, Yihua pressed down onto Xianxia and carefully tasted his wife's cherry lips. I have father, mother. You all? Dong Huangli and Yi Yan stood at the doorway and covered their eyes with their hands. Seeing that their parents still haven't come out, they ran into the doorway and shouted at their parents, and immediately after, they saw their parents kissing on the bed. Hearing the child's voice, Xianxia hurriedly pushed away her husband who was infatuated with her, then fiercely glared at her gluttonous husband and said lightly, It's all your fault, being seen by the children. Yihua smiled embarrassedly and didn't take it to heart. After putting on his clothes, Yihua walked out of the doorway and coincidentally saw the Empress returning. When Dong Baiji saw her husband, she immediately recalled what happened last night, and her beautiful face immediately became bright red. These two women, no matter how many times I have done it, they are always so shy as if it was their first time. How is the situation today? Yihua asked faintly while drinking the century egg and lean meat porridge. Dong Baiji said gravely, Nan Wuxi has already set up their headquarters and it is located in the south. So fast. Yihua was a bit surprised. I thought that they were going to do something to intimidate us first. I didn't expect that their actions would be so small. Brother-in-law, there is the latest video here. Qin Yutong, who was at the side, played the video. Everyone saw the long flight of stairs and the palace in the sky. So imposing. As expected of a person from the prehistoric era, such an imposing manner is enough to intimidate a lot of people. Qin Yutong said confusedly, this video was taken from the sky, which means that there are helicopters hovering around the surroundings. However, Nan Wuxi didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is very strange. Qin Yutong's words obtained the agreement of Xianxia and Dong Baiji. For such a powerful person to directly ignore this point, this is very unusual. Yihua said faintly, because it is disdainful, it didn't pay any attention to the helicopters. This is a very simple logic. In actuality, the more Nan Wuxi didn't make a move, the more confused Yihua was, because this didn't make sense. Perhaps it is only the second day and they don't have a concrete plan yet. That's right. I just have to continue waiting. If the enemy doesn't make a move, I won't make a move. Yihua continued speaking, then didn't say anything else. However, 1 month passed, 2 months had passed, 3 months had passed. The popularity of Nan Wuxi seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and everyone had almost forgotten about this matter and returned back to their normal lives. During these 3 months, Yihua was very gloomy. Zhou Xian said that day that Nan Wuxi likes to challenge strong opponents, but looking at it now, Nan Wuxi didn't make a move at all. Yihua was even a bit impatient. There were a few times when he wanted to send people over to probe Nan Wuxi's intentions, but in the end he still endured it. I have never taken the initiative before and this time is no exception. Therefore, during these 3 months, Yihua was a bit unhappy. Every day he would look forward to them causing trouble, but every day he would be disappointed. I feel that this South Wuxi is a group with brains. Then I shall play with your brains. I have never been afraid of anyone. However, to Yihua today was a good day. Right now, Yihua was anxiously standing outside of Dong Baiji's bedroom, and Dong Baiji's shouts could be heard coming from inside. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were holding hands and they were also very nervous. Daddy, it has already been so long, why hasn't Mommy given birth yet? Dong Huangli asked worriedly. Ollie, don't worry, it will be very soon. With a gentle smile on his face, Yihua said. Along with the sound of the child crying, Yihua let out a sigh of relief. I have finally given birth to the child safely. Back then when Xianxia gave birth to Yan, I, the Supreme Overlord, was also extremely worried. Today is also the same. In the future I better not give birth to a child. I, the Supreme Overlord, am truly afraid of this kind of feeling. Yihua brought along the 2 children and walked inside. Dong Baiji, who was lying on the bed, looked a bit weak and her complexion was pale. While hugging onto a little fellow, Xianxia said with a slight smile, Yihua, you are going to have another son. That's true, Ali has another little brother. Dong Huangli was very happy. Chapter 691. The little fellow was white and tender, he who had just cried just a while ago. His face was currently cold. That's right. This expression of Yi Hua's was extremely similar to Yi Hua's, the Yi Hua with a straight face. Yi Yan looked at his brother's expression and was slightly stunned. Wow, my brother is so cool. That's right, little brother's expression is just like daddy's expression. Dong Huangli cried out in surprise. It can't be that little brother's personality has been infected by daddy, right? Qingyu was also a bit surprised. Dong Huang Baiji's son is truly a bit cold, he is too similar to Yi Hua. However, when Yi Hua took a look at his son, the latter actually looked straight at his father. How audacious. Not bad. As expected of my son, you're full of vigor. Yi Hua said faintly. Soon after, he walked to the side of the bed and lightly caressed Dong Huang Baiji's face. Baiji, it has been hard on you. Feeling the warmth of her husband's hand, Dong Huang Baiji said tenderly, it's not hard as long as you are happy, it's fine. Rest well for the next few days, don't bother about Voidless Realm's trivial matters. Dong Huang Baiji nodded. Qingye, let me take a look at my son. Dong Huang Baiji sat up and laid on the head of the bed. Qingye handed the child over to Dong Huang Baiji. Looking at her son's expression, Dong Huang Baiji was a bit surprised. This little fellow has just come out and yet his aura is already so strong. Especially that gaze, it is too similar to Yi Hua's. This caused Dong Huang Baiji to be a bit worried. She patted on her son's butt, wanting her son to cry. However, who would have thought that her son did not have any reaction at all? Furthermore, with a puzzled look on his face, he seemed to be asking, Mom, why did you hit me? Alright, Dong Huang Baiji had no other choice. Yi Hua, your son is so cool, he looks exactly the same as you. Dong Huang Baiji carefully placed her son onto Yi Hua's hand. Yi Hua looked at the little fellow in his embrace and laughed lightly. Sure. He's my third child. His name is God Yi. When the little fellow heard his father's name, a trace of an arc appeared on the corner of his mouth. This name is simply like a miniature version of Yi Hua. It is 2F** king similar. God Yi, the future god of slaughter. An existence that was 100 times more savage than his father. When Dong Huang Baiji heard this name, she said worriedly, Yi Hua, isn't this name a bit too big? What does it matter? My child is going to be bigger than the heavens. Yi Hua said in disdain. The little fellow in his arms seemed to understand and nodded, indicating that he liked the name very much. Brother-in-law, quickly let me hug him. Qing Yutong, who was at the side, couldn't wait any longer, and she didn't even have the time to hug him. Yi Hua sent the child to his sister-in-law. Qing Yutong looked at God Yi, then reached out and hooked God Ye's chin. The little guy seemed to have a look of disdain. This caused Qing Yutong to laugh. Wow, look at the little fellow, he is getting angry just like brother-in-law. Is that so? Quickly let me take a look. Qing Ye moved closer to Yi Hua. Qing Ye discovered that what Yi Hua said was really interesting. Dong Huang Baiji, who was lying on the bed, felt helpless. My daughter's personality is like mine, and my son's personality is completely like Yi Hua's. To be honest, Yi Hua's personality was not likable. Arrogant, conceited, bad-tempered, chauvinistic, and also liked to act cool. Basically, all the shortcomings of a man were gathered on him. Dong Huang Baiji didn't want her son to be like this. From the looks of it, I will have to put in more effort to change her son's character. Dong Huang Baiji's idea was good, but the reality was not like that. 1 week later, God Yi learned how to walk just like big brother Yi Yan. 2 weeks later, God Yi had already started practicing swordsmanship. 1 month later, everyone became speechless. The morning in Voidless Realm was very peaceful. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan woke up very early and prepared to start their daily training. However, in the garden, there was already a small figure that was dripping with sweat, and there was no expression on the small figure's face. God Yi let out a breath, then looked at his big sister and big brother, who looked like they had not woken up yet, then said faintly, Big sister, big brother, you two are late. Dong Huang Li rolled her eyes. Yi Yan had a gloomy look on his face. This was already not the first time. No matter what God Yi did, he would always be very focused, very serious, and would never joke around, just like a small adult. Little God, I am your big sister, you have to listen to me. That's right, little God, I am your big brother, you have to listen to me too. God Yi said faintly, All right, big sister, big brother, let's start training. Dong Huangli, Yi Yan. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan felt helpless towards this little brother of theirs. All he does is train, and it seems like only training can make him happy. Dong Huangli said softly, Daddy and Mommy still haven't woken up yet, let's go out and play. Alright big sister, let's go out and play. Yi Yan was the first to raise his hand in agreement. God, Yi said faintly, Daddy and Mommy will scold people. It's fine, big sister will help you carry it. Dong Huangli said while patting on her chest. God Ye's expression was very serious. Thank you big sister and big brother, but little God doesn't want to go out and play, you two have fun. Little God, don't be so disappointing, we are just children, there is no need for us to be so hardworking. Yi Yan said. That's right now I am speaking as your biological big sister. Little God, put down the wooden sword in your hand and go out and play with us. Dong Huangli put on the attitude of a big sister. If you don't go out and play with us, we will break off our friendship. Struggle could be seen within God Ye's eyes. Of course, I know that Dong Huangli is my biological big sister, but I really don't like to play with you. I feel that playing with you is a waste of time and is meaningless. Big sister, I'm sorry. God Ye said respectfully. Dong Huangli held onto her forehead, feeling a bit angry. Little brother is too disobedient, and he is even my biological little brother. Yan, let's go, big sister will bring you to eat delicious food. Dong Huangli pulled Yi Yan and walked outside. Yi Yan still turned his head around and shouted, Little God, are you really not coming? Big brother, take good care of big sister. God Yi revealed out an apologetic gaze. Yi Yan had no other choice. In the past I thought that when the time comes, we can play together and have fun together. But in the end I found out that God Yi doesn't have any fun at all. Looking at his big sister and big brother leaving, God Yi raised the wooden sword in his hand, and with a firm gaze he began swinging the wooden sword. Dong Huang Baiji, who was standing not too far away, saw everything that happened just now. The thing that I am worried about the most still happened in the end. My son is not sociable. What should I do? Dong Huangli pulled Yi Yan and walked on the road of Voidless Realm. Big sister, don't be too angry, little God has such a personality, even the mothers can't do anything about it. Yi Yan consoled Dong Huangli in a low voice. Dong Huangli pouted her mouth. Alright, big sister isn't angry, I just feel that little God is working too hard, training every day. It's fine, Yenner is accompanying big sister. Chapter 692. On the big bed in Yi Hua's bedroom, Xianxia leaned on Yi Hua's arm and muttered, Baiji went to see our son again early in the morning. Yi Hua slowly opened his eyes and with his right hand twirling around Xianxia's beautiful hair he said faintly, I don't know what Baiji is worried about, but I just feel that Xianxia is pretty good, and he is very hardworking and he is worthy of praise. Xianxia lightly knocked onto her husband's chest. How can you understand our thoughts as mothers? Then what do you all think? Yi Hua asked. Of course, I hope that the child can grow up happily. Look at Xianxia. He doesn't play with Li Yan at all. He's a loner. It would be strange if Baiji wasn't worried. My child is going to be born soon and right now I am a bit worried. If I were to give birth to a child who has the same personality as Xianxia, then Yi Hua didn't feel that his son was in the wrong, it was the two of them who were overly worried. Alright, it is a good thing for children to have their own personalities. No matter what, they are still siblings. Yi Hua said lightly, not really taking the matter to heart. Xianxia sighed helplessly. Right at this moment, Dong Huang Baiji walked into the room with a depressed heart. She crawled into the blanket and hugged onto her husband tightly. Ali and Xianxia seemed to have gotten into a conflict. Dong Huang Baiji said faintly. Both of them are my children and I feel rather uncomfortable seeing them like that. What's wrong? Yi Hua asked curiously. Dong Huang Baiji then told Yi Hua about what happened just now. Yi Hua thought that Yi Hua was just rejecting Yi Hua on a daily basis. My youngest son sure has a unique personality, and he fits my taste perfectly. Baiji, you don't have to worry too much. Yi Hua comforted Baiji lightly. It could be seen that the Empress was very depressed this month. Dong Huang Baiji said in a low voice, I'm just afraid that the siblings won't get along with each other. Yi Hua did not say anything. God Ye's personality is unsociable and he often trains by himself and he doesn't play with his big sister and big brother. Yi Hua was able to understand God Ye's personality. After all, he was also like that in the past. However, as a mother, Dong Huang Baiji was having a headache. Xianxia, your due date is coming soon, right? Dong Huang Baiji reminded. Xianxia nodded her head. That's right, soon the lady is coming out. That's right, this time Xianxia was pregnant with a girl and both of them had a son and a daughter. Yi Hua said with a smile. All right, since you have already given birth, I can finally have some fun. The two wives glared at Yi Hua fiercely. The two wives were getting more and more flirtatious. Just when everyone was planning to get up from the bed, Xianxia suddenly wrinkled her brows and cried out. Xianxia, what's wrong? Dong Huang Baiji asked anxiously. Xianxia's face was a bit painful. You really got it right, it's coming out. Yi Hua, quickly call Yutong over to help. Dong Huang Baiji said hurriedly. Yi Hua nodded his head, then called Qin Yutong over to help deliver the baby. This time Yi Hua was very relieved. After the incident that happened last time, Xianxia's side effects had already been eliminated, therefore, that kind of situation wouldn't happen again. Yi Hua brought along the three children and stood outside the house, waiting anxiously. God Yi stood beside his father. The cold arrogance between the father and son was exactly the same, and there was no extra expression on their faces. On the other hand, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan who were at the side were much more lively, and they matched the personalities of the children. Not long after, the sound of a child crying could be heard in the room. Yi Hua heaved a sigh of relief. Everything went smoothly. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan immediately rushed into the room. Meanwhile, Yi Hua walked into the room unhurriedly, and God Yi respectfully followed beside his father's feet. Brother-in-law, quickly come and take a look. Qin Yutong carried on to her big sister's daughter and shouted towards Yi Hua. Right now, Yi Hua was a bit worried about Qin Yutong's personality, and he immediately looked towards his daughter who was in Qin Yutong's embrace. The little guy was lying there quietly. What? His expression was exactly the same as God Ye's. Now let me take a look. Xianxia also began to worry, especially when she saw her husband's expression just now. She became even more worried. Qin Yutong pursed her lips, then passed the child to her big sister. Xianxia looked at her daughter's expression. Her daughter's expression was exactly the same as God Ye's at that time. Dong Huang Baiji who was at the side saw it as well. Dong Huang Baiji couldn't help but look at her son who was standing at the side. What a headache. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan also rushed to look at their little sister, and when they saw their little sister's expression, they were instantly stupefied. Wasn't that the second God Yi? Dong Huang Li patted onto Yi Yan's shoulder. From the looks of it, in the future, only the two of us will be able to play together. Yi Yan no longer held any hope for his own sister. She would definitely be a small god in the future. It seemed that they would have to be divided into factions in the future. The adults all heard the little fellow's conversation and seemed very helpless. From their personalities, it could be seen that they would have to be divided into two factions in the future. Yi Hua who was standing at the side also began to face this problem seriously. Yi Hua, what is our daughter's name? Xianxia who was carrying her daughter asked her husband. Yi Hua pondered for a moment then slowly said, Yi Lu. Hearing the name that her husband gave her, a smile appeared on the corner of Xianxia's mouth. She looked at her daughter who was in her embrace and said, From now on, you will be called Yi Lu. The little fellow did not have any expression on her face, and there was not a single ripple on her face. This caused Xianxia to become depressed. She looked at God Yi then looked at Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan who were at the side who were depressed. Why is it like this? It should be because Yi Lu is still young and she will be fine after a few weeks. However, a month passed by. It was another warm morning. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan walked out of their room while rubbing their eyes. Looking at the two little figures in the garden, both of them didn't feel like speaking anymore. God Yi and Yi Lu who were in the garden could be seen looking at each other faintly, and tiny beads of sweat could be seen on their foreheads. You are slow. God Yi said lightly. He was currently teaching his little sister. Yi Lu appeared to be very calm. Brother, being slow has its benefits. Didn't you still lose to me in the end? Brother is just going easy on you. There's no need for that. Yi Lu said indifferently. Her chin was slightly raised, appearing very cold and arrogant. Alright. This is my little sister. God Yi shouted out lightly, and a large amount of spiritual energy erupted out from his little body. Yi Lu's gaze became serious, then lightly waved the wooden sword in her hand, blocking her big brother's surprise attack. Cough, cough, cough. Dong Huang Li brought her little brother Yi Yan to the side, then let out a heavy cough. God Yi and Yi Lu kept the wooden sword in their hands, then stood side by side obediently and shouted, "Big sister, big brother, good morning." Dong Huangli stood with her hands behind her back, then walked to the middle of the two of them, then heavily patted the two of them. "Good luck in the future, Yi family will be relying on the two of you." God Yi said gravely, "Big sister, don't worry, little brother swears to defend Yi family's honor with his life." Big sister, big brother, don't worry, little sister will live and die together with Yi family's honor. Yi Lu appeared to be incomparably serious and didn't seem to be joking at all. Chapter 693. Yan exhaled softly. "Let's go to mom and dad's place for breakfast after you're done." "Thank you for your concern, big brother," God Yi said lightly. "Okay, big brother." Yi Lu nodded and said softly. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan left while holding hands. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan's back view seemed a bit down. Right now, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan are truly divided into two factions. One was the playful faction led by Dong Huang Li, while the other was the serious faction led by God Yi. Seeing their elder sister and brother leave, God Yi and Yi Lu distanced themselves from each other. "Brother, there are still 10 minutes left," Yi Lu said indifferently. "That's enough," God Yi shouted in a childish voice. His small body turned into a phantom and rushed out. Yi Lu also went all out and the two little fellows were having a great time fighting. On the other hand, Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan were having a lot of fun. Right now, the Empress was also helping Qin Yu make breakfast. After all, the number of people in the family was a bit too much, and adding Qin Yutong into the family, there were 8 people in the family. The little fellow's appetite was not small. Just that, Qin Ya and Dong Huang Baiji who were making breakfast seemed a bit gloomy. Sai, Shin'er and Lu are truly wholeheartedly focusing on cultivation. Dong Huang Baiji said. It had already been 2 months and it seemed like Dong Huang Baiji had gotten over it quite a bit. Qin Ya nodded her head. That's right, it's also good for Lu to be Shin'er's companion, if not Shin'er will be too lonely. I'm just worried for them after they grow up. Dong Huang Baiji was very worried. She was afraid that her children would turn against each other and become enemies. Baiji, you think too much. Although they don't play together, they have a good relationship. Shin'er and Lu are very respectful to Ali. I hope so. Dong Huang Baiji let out a breath. Carrying the breakfast, the 2 beautiful wives walked to the front hall. And at this time the 4 children walked in one after another. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan were on one side while God Yi and Yi Lu were on one side. However, don't look at how God Yi and Yi Lu were on the same side. The 2 of them were actually enemies. Towards this kind of situation, Qin Ya and Dong Huang Baiji were already used to it. Did you wash your hands? Qin Ya asked with a smile. Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan said happily, yes. God Yi and Yi Lu, on the other hand, extended their palms, indicating that they had already washed. From this point it could be seen that Dong Huang Li and Yi Yan belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative, while God Yi and Yi Lu belonged to the category of people who were ruthless and talkative. These were 2 extremes. Right at this moment, Yi Hua walked out from the room at the side. The 4 children shouted in unison, "Good morning, Daddy." Yi Hua nodded his head and took the lead to sit down. At this moment, only then did Qin Ya and Dong Huang Baiji sit down, followed by the children. From this point it could be seen that Yi family was still very neat and tidy, other than one person. Brother, hey, big sister, wait for me. Qin Yutong ran over energetically. Qin Ya wrinkled her brows. Yutong, how many times have I said it, be steady? Qin Yutong pouted her mouth. Steady? That's impossible, I won't be able to be steady in my entire life. She even felt resentful that her brother-in-law didn't love her anymore. He had only come twice this month. It was so sad. It seemed like Big Sister and Big Sister Baiji had given him a lot of benefits. Otherwise, brother-in-law wouldn't be like this. Ever since Qin Yi gave birth to a child, Yi Hua began to let loose of himself. Every day he would roll in the sheets with his 2 wives. Not to mention how great it was, even Nan Wuqi didn't have time to care about Yi Hua anymore. However, this time I had prepared contraceptive measures. My marksmanship is truly powerful, I can kill one with 1 shot. Looking at his 4 children eating peacefully, Yi Hua's mood was also very carefree. When would I have thought that I would have such a day like this? What's the situation with Nan Wuqi right now? Yi Hua asked faintly. He had almost forgotten that there was such a group of people. Dong Huang Baiji shook her head. From the moment they appeared until now they have not done anything. God Yi suddenly placed down his chopsticks and said seriously, "Father, mother, why don't you leave this matter to Xianxia? I want a mission." Yi Lu followed and said. The words of the two little fellows made the adults laugh. They were quite attentive. "Alright, the two of you are still young, just leave this kind of matter to father and mother." Xianxia rubbed onto her daughter's head and said tenderly. To know how to worry at such a young age, when they grow up they will definitely be very outstanding. Dong Huangli and Yi Yan were a bit gloomy. This little brother and little sister actually came to ask their father for a mission. As the big sister, I still don't have the qualifications. Yihua looked at Ali's gloomy expression and said faintly, "The two of you should just focus on your cultivation and listen to big sister's words, understand?" Towards their father's words, God Yi and Yi Lu would definitely listen to them. "Alright, father." Father Lu understands. Yihua nodded his head, then signaled everyone to continue eating and not to think about anything else. At this moment, on the stairs of Nanwiki, there was a Meituan's little brother who was carrying a heavy box on his back. K delivering a Meituan, I almost lost my life. The Meituan's little brother sat paralyzed on the stairs. This was already not the first time that he came to deliver food. If it wasn't for the fact that the delivery fee was very high, he wouldn't have accepted such a mission even if he was beaten to death. The Meituan's little brother rested for a minute, then continued to climb the stairs. After an hour he finally reached the end of the stairs and shouted out loudly, "Your group beauty is here." Right after he finished speaking, the big box automatically opened. The Meituan's little brother wasn't surprised at all as he said, "Remember to leave a 5-star rating." Sure. Looking at the food floating in the air and entering the palace, the little brother looked at the stairs again. Climbing up is hard and going down is even harder. White Bones walked into the palace with the food, and right at this moment, Kai Yun's excited voice rang out from within the palace. "Dragon! Dragon! Dragon! Hurry up!" Kai Yun stood on a chair while holding onto a lollipop in his mouth and shouted out to his 4 subordinates. Yu Hua said gently, "Flagmaster, our mid-lane's Highland Tower is being stolen by Sword Saint." It's fine, we counterattacked the big dragon." Kai Yun said excitedly. The 4 subordinates were helpless and could only follow the Flagmaster to steal the big dragon. They didn't even care about their home anymore. "Flagmaster, I will go and poke a hole to prevent Blind from stealing the big dragon." Luo Ho was very steady. Kai Yun said in disdain, "What are you going to poke a hole for? If Blind comes, I will save my skill to insta-kill him." Flag. Sky Red was about to speak. Kai Yun directly said, "Little Red. Don't speak. Keep quiet." All right. The big dragon's blood spurted out very quickly. However, a flash of light suddenly appeared. Kai Yun was stupefied as he saw Blind appearing and snatching the big dragon, then going up again. The 5 of them stood blankly in the pit of the big dragon. Kai Yun directly typed and scolded Blind for being shameless. "Flagmaster. Sword Saint is going to demolish our home." Luo Ho hurriedly reported the situation. "Go home." Kai Yun waved his hand and gave the order. Just as everyone was returning to the city, a big easy flew over and instantly interrupted them. Kai Yun. Everyone from South Wuxia watched as their base was demolished by Sword Saint. Chapter 694. Ah. Kai Yun held onto his head and was about to go crazy. "You bunch of swindlers, can't you let me win a round? Haven't you all heard of the saying that a dragon can destroy a person's life? I'm so angry." Kai Yun pouted his small mouth and had a very unhappy look on his face. Yu Hua hugged Kai Yun and comforted him gently. "Flagmaster, don't be angry, your favorite Mai Xianfeng is here." "It's here?" Hearing that there was a Mai Xianfeng, Kai Yun immediately beamed with joy. "Flagmaster, the takeaway is here." White Bones brought over a pile of delicious food, and Kai Yun hopped around to look for the Mai Xianfeng. That sweet taste made Kai Yun reveal a satisfied smile. The food in this world is really delicious, so fragrant. To be able to provide delicious food for Flagmaster is humanity's fortune. White Bones, who was in the air, said respectfully. Kai Yun raised his hand and was a little proud. Then he asked, "White Bones, how is the investigation going these few months?" Reporting to Flagmaster, "The overall strength of this world is very weak. There isn't any powerful existence." White Bones had been collecting information these few months, and the others had been playing games with Flagmaster. Hearing such words, Kai Yun's complexion turned bad again. He had a typical childish personality. Boring. Kai Yun pouted and said. After eating a mai xian feng, Kai Yun picked up a potato and started eating. Lower the requirement then, ordinary is fine too. Flagmaster, there might not even be ordinary. White Bones said softly. What? Not even ordinary? So weak. Kai Yun was in disbelief. How do the people on this planet live? After a long time, Kai Yun continued. Lower the requirement then, lower the requirement then. There is. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun said in boredom. Let's listen to it then. In Europe there is a person who claims to be a demon called Lucifer, there is also a person who claims to be a local called Voidless Realm, and there is also a person who claims to be an empress. White Bones reported the people who were of a lower strength. Kai Yun picked up the tube and inserted it into the cola, then took a deep breath. Just these three? Is Flagmaster. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun took a deep breath. Then go and invite them over for a meal. It's so boring, let's continue to play games. Yes. Flagmaster. White Bones said respectfully. The five of them returned to their seats. Yu Hua asked curiously, Flagmaster, why did you call them over? I don't know, when the time comes it will depend on my mood. I don't talk about these things anymore, I want to be a mid-laner, if you don't want to give it to me then I will give it to you, the four subordinates. In a castle in Europe, Lucifer was sitting on his throne. His slender fingers rested on the armrest as he slowly tapped it. South Wuxia, this faction has been here for some time. Do you have any information? Lucifer asked calmly. Lord Lucifer, other than the delivery every day, there's no other information. Owen was also one of Lucifer's demon generals. His strength was extraordinary and he was also a handsome guy. Lucifer said in a deep voice. The last time Taylor and Julia went to capture someone, they didn't expect to be left in the East forever. Lord Lucifer, the East has always been very mysterious. If there's no need, don't ever go there. The one who spoke was called Miller, also one of the demon generals. When he found out that 2 demon generals had died in the mysterious East, Lucifer was furious. At that time he wanted to take revenge for his subordinates, but he was stopped by the 2 of them. Although it was a little unjust, their instincts told them that if Lord Lucifer went there he definitely wouldn't come back. The 2 demon generals even fought with Lucifer. In the end, Lucifer didn't go to the mysterious East, but he had always kept this grudge in his heart. As long as there was a chance he would definitely take revenge for his subordinates. Lucifer said angrily, You guys are just exaggerating. Lord Lucifer, please calm down. Owen persuaded carefully, hoping that Lord Lucifer wouldn't act on impulse and take a step back. It had to be said that these 2 subordinates had stopped Lucifer from sending their heads to the demon generals. They were rare good subordinates and deserved to be praised. Let's talk about this mysterious South Wuxia. Lucifer put his depression aside first. There's nothing to talk about. A voice suddenly rang out from the air. Owen and Miller immediately became vigilant. Lucifer suddenly stood up, then looked around and shouted, Who is it? One of the 5 banners of South Wuxia, White Bones. The strange voice rang out from the air again. South Wuxia. We were just talking about this South Wuxia just now, and I didn't expect that South Wuxia would appear so quickly. This is too much of a coincidence. Furthermore, it's that strange White Bones. Lucifer didn't dare to be careless and asked, What are you doing here? White Bones said faintly, The Banner Master has ordered to invite you to South Wuxia for a meal. A meal? Owen shouted out coldly, What qualifications does your Banner Master have to invite the great Lucifer? Just after Owen finished speaking he felt a chill on his chest. Drip, drip, drip. The sound of blood dripping onto the ground rang out in the hall and it seemed very strange. Owen lowered his head and took a look at his chest blankly. My chest was pierced through but I can't see anything at all. It felt as if my chest was pierced through by air, but I can feel the chill coming from that pierce through my chest. Insulting the Banner Master, there is only death for you. White Bones said coldly. When White Bones retracted his hand, Owen's chest was like a fountain, and boiling hot blood splattered onto the ground. The black wings on Owen's back immediately opened up, and Owen slowly walked a few steps, then fell into a pool of blood. Killing a demon general with a single strike, this caused Lucifer to feel shocked, to the point that he didn't even dare to move. Miller, who was at the side, also didn't dare to say anything. I can't sense where the enemy is at all and I feel a chill on my back. It seems that if I were to say anything I would die on the spot. 3 days later. The banner master will be waiting for your arrival. If the person doesn't arrive, then the head is fine too. Right now Lucifer was trying to find the location of White Bones, but he was completely unable to find it. Facing such a threat, Lucifer didn't have any strength to retaliate at all, and he could only watch as his subordinate died. After quite a while Miller said in alarm, "Lord Lucifer, that person seems to have left." Lucifer didn't know if that person had left or not and his expression was very tense. After around half an hour, Lucifer finally couldn't bear it anymore and sat down. Miller was also scared to the point that his forehead was filled with sweat. "Lord Lucifer, 3 days later, we go," Lucifer said gravely. "There's no other way, that person's strength is too terrifying." Miller let out a breath. "If I don't go I will die, but if I go I will still be able to have a try." Chapter 695. On a certain mountaintop in Japan. The houses here were all built on the mountainside. There were no walkways around the houses and there were only thin ropes around the houses. Countless shadows were shuttling back and forth at an extremely fast speed. The building on the mountaintop was very special. Although it didn't have any special decorations, just by standing there, it gave off a feeling of reverence. Looking down from above, there were small bridges, flowing water, cherry blossoms and pink petals falling onto the ground, presenting a beautiful picture. From time to time, clattering sounds could be heard coming from the wooden place. Some women wearing wooden clogs were serving desserts, and their deathly white makeup looked a bit scary. In the main hall a few men were kneeling on the ground. The one sitting in the middle was naturally the big boss of Seoul Group, Miyamoto Shotai. Below him there were also 4 people wearing loose black and white kimonos, and their faces were filled with respect. "Did that Nan Wuxi make any movements recently?" Miyamoto Shotai asked in a low voice. That goatee was very funny, causing the 4 subordinates to not dare to look straight at Miyamoto Shotai, fearing that they wouldn't be able to hold back their laughter. Because Miyamoto Shotai also looked very funny, and coupled with that goatee, it feels like a joke. "Miyamoto-sama, Nan Wuxi hasn't made any movements these few months," Shi Tianguang said while slightly lowering his head. Miyamoto Shotai let out a breath. "Nan Wuxi has been here for a few months, but he actually didn't make any movements. This is very surprising." "Miyamoto-sama, maybe this Nan Wuxi is looking for an opportunity." Nakata Koda was a small fatty, and while kneeling he looked like a meatball. The person who was sitting below the fatty was called He Mingming. This person was rather skinny and he was very tall, giving people a feeling that he was a bamboo pole. "Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, Nan Wuxi will definitely turn China's cultivation world upside down. I'm afraid that Voidless Realm will make an appearance," Kazuta Taniguchi said gravely. Miyamoto Shotai picked up the wooden cup in his right hand, took a small sip, then put it down. "Voidless Realm has always been a thorn in my heart. If not for Voidless Realm, we would have long invaded China. Miyamoto-sama, rest assured, I believe that China's cultivation world will be in chaos soon. At that time, we will definitely be able to intervene," Nakata Koda said with a fawning smile. Coupled with that chubby face of his, Nakata Koda looked very scary. "I wonder when Nan Wuxi is going to make his move. I'm really worried," Miyamoto Shotai said faintly. In his heart he hoped that Nan Wuxi would be able to exterminate Voidless Realm, and it would be best if both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm were to end up with both Voidless Realm and Voidless Realm being heavily injured. It can't be that Nan Wuxi is afraid of Voidless Realm, right? That's why they haven't made a move yet? Kazuta Taniguchi murmured. Puff. Just as he finished speaking, Taniguchi Kazuta felt a chill on his back. He felt as if his heart had been grabbed. "Wada, what's wrong?" He wisely saw that Wada Taniguchi didn't look well and asked with concern. "I have thorns." Bang. Taniguchi Kazuta could be seen heavily falling onto the wooden table, and his heart was floating in the air, slowly moving. This terrifying scene caused the 4 people present to not dare to move recklessly. Wada Taniguchi is a super strong ninja, how can he be killed in a second? "Ha!" He shouted in anger. A katana appeared in his hand and he slashed at the air. Boom. With a single slash the entire house was split open. It was terrifying. However, he wisely only felt a chill on his chest and his heart was being pulled out by someone. 2 bloody hearts floated in the air. He who was holding onto the katana stared blankly at his own beating heart, then slowly fell onto the ground. Humph. Do you think that I, Nan Wuchi, will be afraid of the weak voidless realm? What a joke. White Bones said with an eerie tone as he clenched his fists. The two boiling hot hearts immediately exploded, and blood splattered onto Shi Tianguang and Nakata Goda's faces. The two of them were clearly scared stiff. Miyamoto Shotai was the same as well. Who are you? Miyamoto Shotai said intermittently. He was very frightened. I am one of the 5 banners of Nan Wuchi. White Bones. White Bones? How could the remaining 3 people not have heard of White Bones? They had watched those few videos of White Bones before, and they even felt that White Bones was the strongest among the 5 banners. Because White Bones doesn't have any form, how are they supposed to kill it? Kill it with my consciousness? Or stare it to death with Doom's eyes? Both of these are completely impossible. However, what they didn't know was that White Bones was actually the weakest among the 5 banners, and the other 4 banners were even more monstrous. Miyamoto Shotai slowly stood up, then immediately did a 90 degrees bow. When Ishida and Nakata Goda saw that their boss had already bowed without thinking, they immediately stood up and did a 90 degrees bow. They were incomparably sincere. Lord White Bones, I apologize for offending you just now, but it definitely wasn't my wish. Miyamoto Shotai said gravely. White Bones looked at the 3 despicable people in front of it, and there wasn't any fluctuation in its emotions. 3 days later. The banner's master invites you over for a meal. White Bones said calmly. This sentence gave Miyamoto Shotai quite a scare. A meal? Are you sure that I'm not going to eat people? But am I going to deny it now? What is the consequence? Miyamoto Shotai took a look at the wooden floor. Those 2 lumps of flesh and blood are so conspicuous. This should be the consequence of not agreeing to it, right? Alright, I will definitely come over 3 days later. Miyamoto Shotai said respectfully, not daring to raise his head at all. After a long while, when no one heard White Bones' voice, everyone slowly straightened their backs, then sat powerlessly on the floor. Ishida Hikaru mumbled, This Nan Wuchi is indeed powerful. Yeah, we killed the 2 of them without leaving a trace. Nakata Senda looked at the 2 corpses. There was a bloody hole in their chest. It was terrifying. How was this murder? It was a complete instant kill. There was no logic to it at all. With his brows tightly wrinkled, Miyamoto Nagata said, I'm afraid that this Nan Wuchi is even stronger than Voidless Realm. Miyamoto-sama, if we can get on Nan Wuchi's good side, I'm sure it'll be more beneficial for us. The little fatty Nakata Senda gave a good suggestion. His blood was flowing with submission. Miyamoto Shotai felt that this idea is very good. I can give it a try. If we can reach an agreement, join the alliance, it will definitely be beneficial to me. 3 days later, the 2 of you will go with me. Miyamoto Nagatake decided that he had to give it a try. In any case, he would die either way. Nakata Genta didn't want to die. He hurriedly said, Miyamoto-ma, you should know that my mother's birthday is in 3 days. Yes, Miyamoto-sama, my son is getting married in 3 days. Ishida Hikaru hurriedly refused. Dinner 3 days later. That's definitely going to be the last dinner. Miyamoto Shotai said faintly, Birthday? How about changing it to a funeral? Marriage? Let's change it to a funeral. The 2 immediately knelt on the floor and shouted out in unison, Subordinate is willing to follow Miyamoto-sama. Chapter 696. Inside Voidless Realm. Dou Fushi and Li Hun were strolling in the mountains. Li Hun leaned on Dou Fushi's side sweetly and held onto Dou Fushi's arm tightly, as if she was afraid that Dou Fushi would run away. Little Dodo, will you not want me anymore in the future? Li Hun asked softly. Her originally sweet face became bitter. In Li Hun's heart she was afraid of being abandoned. Now that she had given everything to Dou Fushi, she naturally hoped to grow old together with Dou Fushi. Hearing Li Hun's words, Dou Fushi laughed lightly. Little Li Hun, what happened to you recently? Why are you always asking such questions? Just answer me, I want to hear it. Li Hun pouted her little mouth. Dou Fushi stopped walking and held onto Li Hun's shoulder. Looking at Li Hun's beautiful face, Dou Fushi still felt as if he was dreaming. Li Hun is too beautiful. What did I do to deserve you to love me so much? Dou Fushi stretched out his hand and caressed the mark between Li Hun's eyebrows. Little Li Hun, you are so beautiful. Hearing the praise of the person she liked, Li Hun smiled very happily and directly hugged Dou Fushi tightly. Little Dodo, I like you so much, I want to be with you for the rest of my life. And we will be together for the rest of our lives. Dou Fushi lightly caressed Li Hun's long hair and felt that he had become more mature. After having a woman, men will naturally become more mature, this is great. Little Li Hun, how about we play hide and seek? Dou Fushi smiled and said. Sometimes, a couple needs to interact with each other. Alright, you hide, I will come and catch you if I catch you I won't, Li Hun said coyly. She even bit her lips lightly, her meaning couldn't be any more obvious. Dou Fushi scratched the back of his head. No problem, I guarantee that you will feel comfortable. And quickly go and hide, once I catch you we will go back. After speaking, Li Hun covered her beautiful eyes. Dou Fushi took the opportunity and kissed Li Hun's cheek. Annoying, quickly go and hide, I will let you kiss me to your heart's content later. Okay. Dou Fushi immediately ran away, his speed was so fast that it made one speechless. He was easily caught by departing soul and he even got some benefits. To think that he would really play around. How could a straight guy like him have a girlfriend? Dou Fushi didn't know where he had run off to, so he stood quietly on top of a tree, thinking that little Soul Hun definitely wouldn't be able to find him. I'm a gold raider, Dou Fushi. I'm a top-notch expert in searching for dragons and exploring caves. He might not be able to find dragons now, but his acupoint detection skills were getting better and better. After waiting for a long time, Dou Fushi still did not see the soul separation Dou, revealing a pleased smile. However, his smile soon froze. He felt that there was someone behind him. Little Soul Hun had found him. Ah, congratulations, you found me. Dou Fushi turned around with a smile on his face. He had even thought of how he was going to return. However, when Dou Fushi turned around he did not see anyone at all and was instantly stunned. But it really felt like there was someone there just now. What was going on? Suddenly, Dou Fushi's eyes narrowed and he immediately dodged. The tree beside him was instantly cut in half. Dou Fushi, who had fallen to the ground, looked at his arm which had a bloody wound. This situation caused Floating Dou to be shocked. Who is it? Dou Fushi asked in a low voice. There was no one around, only the faint sound of the wind and the rustling of the leaves. A sense of danger suddenly struck. Dou Fushi did not have much time to think and dodged the attack. Bang! The place where he was standing just a moment ago was cut in half. Dou Fushi's heartbeat began speeding up. How is this possible? Uncle Wei was the one who bestowed him with power, a terrifying power. Even soul separation Dou is not my opponent, just who is this person? Who is it? If you have the guts, come out. Dou Fushi shouted out again. White Bones said faintly, you are not bad, you were able to dodge 2 of my attacks. Hearing the words that came from the air, Dou Fushi became even more unable to remain calm. Dou Fushi looked around with a panicked expression on his face. Just like what Yihua had said, Dou Fushi and the Green and Red brothers were indeed very strong, but they lacked battle experience, and adding on that they did not have any cultivation techniques, they were not Dou Fushi's opponent at all. Swoosh! Dou Fushi felt a chill on his right shoulder, and when he turned around to take a look, he saw that his shoulder had been cut in half. A wave of pain immediately spread to his brain. However, right now Dou Fushi still did not know where the enemy was. Come out! Dou Fushi shouted out angrily and punched the air, causing a huge shockwave to erupt out. It's useless. You are still too weak. White Bones said faintly. Dou Fushi's gaze became serious. This voice is coming from behind me. I finally found you. Without any hesitation, a powerful black light condensed on Dou Fushi's fist and directly punched towards the voice. Boom boom boom. The entire forest collapsed in a fan shape, and a powerful spiritual pressure erupted out. The pain on Dou Fushi's shoulders caused his breathing to become a bit chaotic. Looking at the scene that he had created, Dou Fushi laughed and said, this is what you get for looking down on me, a gold raider. I will kill you, the invader, with a single punch. Right after he finished speaking, Dou Fushi felt that his chest had suffered a huge impact, and even his chest bones caved in. Dou Fushi's body flew out like a cannonball, giving rise to a loud sound, and the entire mountain shook violently. Right now, Dou Fushi was lying on a pile of dirt and there was a clear fist mark on his chest. Blood was continuously flowing out from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were lifelessly looking at his surroundings. Little Dou Fushi. When Dou Fushi heard that familiar voice, his expression immediately changed. Enduring the pain on his chest, he shouted out loudly, "Soul separation. Don't come over, go and look for his honor." How could soul separation possibly listen to Dou Fusher's words? Just now, when she discovered that there was a huge spiritual chi fluctuation, she hurriedly came over to take a look at the situation. After that, she saw her beloved man lying on a pile of dirt, looking as if he was about to die. "Little Dou Fusher, what happened to you? Don't scare me." Soul separation supported Dou Fusher up and asked with a sobbing tone. "Soul separation. There is an invader. He's very strong. You are not a match for him, quickly go and inform his honor. There is danger." Dou Fusher hurriedly said. "Now is not the time to be whispering sweet nothings to each other. Quickly go and inform his honor." "Invader." Soul separation's beautiful face immediately became filled with anger, and she fiercely stood up and shouted out, "Who dares to hit my man? Your man is very weak." White Bones said lightly. Hearing those words that came from the air, soul separation immediately became vigilant, and a 5-colored divine sword materialized in her hand. "Soul separation. Quickly run. You are not a match for him." Dou Fusher grabbed onto soul separation's ankle and said with a pleading tone. Soul separation's gaze was locked onto the air. Soul separation, who had rich battle experience, closed her beautiful eyes and sensed the slight spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. However, she was completely unable to sense any spiritual chi fluctuation coming from the air. "Come out." Soul separation shouted out coldly. White Bones didn't want to kill the two people in front of him. "I'm not interested in fighting with you two, goodbye." Chapter 697. A swift and fierce sword chi immediately swept over, but nothing happened. The woman's sixth sense told her that she was in danger. Soul drifting quickly formed a hand seal and a red barrier appeared on her right. Bang! The barrier was instantly shattered and a painful blow landed on Drifting Soul's right shoulder. Drifting Soul's right shoulder instantly deformed, and her delicate body was sent flying, crashing into countless trees. Soul detachment. Dou Fusher screamed as he stood up. "You overestimate yourself." White Bones said indifferently. "I'm going to *CK you to death." Dou Fusher was furious. How dare he hit his woman? Dou Fusher unleashed his explosive power, and a terrifying black mist seeped out of his body. The wounds on his arms quickly healed, and some of his flesh wounds even started to heal, causing White Bones to feel suspicious. This man was very weak, but his strength was enormous. This was especially so for this strange black mist, which made it difficult for him to understand. Feeling the immense power in his body, Dou Fusher's eyes turned red as he looked at the empty forest in front of him. "Here comes the problem." "Hit where?" "Puff." Dou Fusher felt a chill in his lower abdomen as if he had been pierced by something. White Bones' voice sounded from behind him. "In my eyes, you are still too weak." One thought, Lotus. An enraged roar rang out as a terrifying spiritual pressure engulfed the entire mountain peak. A pink sword aura shot towards Dou Fusher's back. Dou Fusher clutched the wound on his abdomen, but it was still bleeding profusely. This strange thing was too terrifying. Not far away, a trail of blood flowed from the corner of Soul Departing's mouth. She held the rainbow divine sword in her hand, and based on her instincts, she had guessed that the strange thing was definitely behind her husband, so she unleashed a powerful attack in that direction. "I wonder if I have hit the jackpot or not. Little Daodu." Flying Soul hurriedly ran over to Dou Fusher's side and saw that blood was continuously pouring out of Dou Fusher's abdomen. This gave Flying Soul a big fright and he immediately healed Dou Fusher. With the black mist's healing, Dou Fusher wouldn't die. White Bones said softly, "You guys are annoying me." As soon as these words rang out, Dou Fusher and Soulless expressions changed drastically. What the hell was going on? He couldn't see or feel anything. How could he fight? "So go to hell." White Bones growled as he charged towards Dou Fusher and Soul Seeker. To the two of them, they couldn't feel the fluctuation of spiritual chi in the air at all. It was as if he could control the air to attack at will. Drifting Soul hugged Dou Fusher tightly in his arms. There was nothing he could do. His opponent's strength was beyond his expectations. "Little Soul Hun, I love you," Dou Fusher said weakly. He was afraid that he would never be able to say these words again. When Li Hun heard this, he was no longer afraid. He even smiled. "I love you too." Boom. A terrifying shockwave spread out in a circular manner, causing the entire mountain to shake violently. Even the ground cracked. I closed my eyes tightly. I don't feel any pain. Slowly opening her eyes, she saw a golden shield enveloping her and Zhou Xian. Not far away from them they saw his honor and his 2 wives. When Zhou Xian saw Senior coming up, he relaxed and fainted. Yi Hua was originally in the midst of teaching the children, and when he sensed the spiritual energy fluctuation coming from this direction, he thought to himself, that's Wei Chang's aura. I reckon that it's Zhou Xian's soul departing. However, in the next moment Yi Hua felt that something was amiss. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were both looking for him, and thus Yi Hua hurriedly ran over. When Yi Hua saw this scene, he didn't think too much and hurriedly created a sturdy barrier around the 2 of them. Because even Yi Hua was unable to sense the existence of white bones, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji who were behind him were the same as well. Who? To actually dare to barge into my voidless realm? Yi Hua shouted out coldly as his gaze locked onto his surroundings. To be able to silently pass through Voidless Realm's barrier, the other party is indeed very powerful. White Bones was also very surprised. Just now, my attack was actually blocked by a small barrier and the barrier was released by this man. The person behind this man should be the Empress, right? One of the 5 banners of South Wuxia, White Bones. The sound of White Bones rang out in the air. Hearing the other party's name, Yi Hua was very surprised. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji's expression sunk, and it was the same for Soul Departing Soul. It's actually that invisible man White Bones. This kind of invisibility is too terrifying. Yi Hua slightly wrinkled his brows. South Wuxia. White Bones, it's not appropriate for you to touch my people, right? White Bones didn't answer Yi Hua's question and said, Bannerman invited the Empress to have a meal 3 days later. I hope that the Empress will arrive on time. To actually disregard my words. Yi Hua clenched his hand and the air in the air seemed to have solidified, just like ice. The layer of ice in the air began to crack one after another. Boom. The air within a circumference of 1 mile instantly exploded, and the corner of Yi Hua's mouth rose. White Bones. Even if you become one with the air, I still have a way to deal with you. However, White Bones' words rang out in the air again. You are very strong. I hope that you will be able to have a meal 3 days later as well. Bannerman will be very happy to see someone like you. After finished speaking, White Bones left. The air was filled with awkwardness. The corner of Yi Hua's mouth twitched slightly. Why is this White Bones still alive? The air in the air just solidified. Why is this White Bones still alive? Just what kind of race is this White Bones? To actually be unable to even kill me. Yi Hua tightly clenched his fists. I didn't expect that I would lose half of the battle against South Wuxia. The main point is, not only that, the one that I fought was someone else's underling, and the one that got my face slapped by someone else's underling. I, the Supreme Overlord, have traveled unhindered in the world for over 1,000 years. When have I ever lost my cool? Don't leak out a single word about what happened today. Yi Hua shouted out gravely, then disappeared from where he was. I have to properly investigate this matter. Seeing that their husband had left, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji's faces were filled with concern. This is the first time that they have seen Yi Hua fight, and the other party is still able to come out unscathed. This South Wuxia is indeed very strong, and this White Bones is the same as well. Right now, White Bones had returned to South Wuxia's palace hall. Kai Yun and the others were currently waiting in the 5th row. White Bones, have you informed everyone? Kai Yun was currently checking on his battle record and asked. Because Kai Yun sensed White Bones, it was just that simple. Bannerman, I have informed everyone. White Bones said respectfully. Kai Yun pursed his lips and asked curiously, are they still obedient? And it's just that Voidless Realm's Empress. Oh? She isn't willing to come? Kai Yun's expression tensed up. Yu Hua, who was sitting at the side, held onto Kai Yun's small hand and lightly rubbed on it, causing Kai Yun's tensed face to ease up. That's not it, it's a man that is beside the Empress and he is very strong. White Bones said earnestly and gave Yi Hua a high evaluation. Very strong. Upon hearing what White Bones said, Kai Yun immediately became excited. Quickly tell me. How is he strong? Chapter 698. 666. Kai Yun clapped his little hands and laughed like a child. This subordinate was trapped at that time, but that man didn't know about this subordinate's weakness and detonated the air, allowing this subordinate to escape. White Bone's strength lay in its ability to coexist with air. Without air, what awaited it was death. It was like suffocating to death. Thus just now Yihua's idea was good. He thought that he would be able to kill Baigu by freezing the air, but in the end he ended up releasing Baigu instead. If Yihua were to find out about this, he would definitely be so angry that he would vomit blood. This was indeed an excellent opportunity. White Bone was air, so it was very difficult to grasp its position. Just now he had been very lucky and managed to solidify White Bone. Therefore, after this incident, the White Bone Association became even more vigilant. They had been careless just now. White Bones, be careful, Luo Ho said in a deep voice. White Bone's advantage was terrifying, but its weakness was also fatal. Hearing White Bone's words, Luo Ho realized that it had just walked around the gates of hell. Alright, I got it. At this moment, Kanking Hong cupped his hands and said, Chi. Clear Cloud indifferently waved his hand. What are you going to do now? You're disturbing me from playing games. In any case, they'll be here in 3 days. Come, let's keep playing. The shockingly ugly Tsong Kong Hong nodded his head and began selecting the candidates. The 5 of them started a new game. Although it was just a small collision, it made the Supreme Overlord suffer, and this was the weakest White Bone. What specialties does the 4th-ranked Luo Ho have? There is also the 3rd-ranked Moonlight, the 2nd-ranked Scarecrow, and the strongest and ugliest Firmament Red. There was even their banner master Kai Yun, a person with the mentality of a child. However, at that time they were only sealed. Why weren't they directly killed? It was likely that they couldn't be killed. This was a completely different concept from Yihua's team being wiped out. Yihua and the others were killed while others were helpless, and this was the Desolate Era. An existence that was even older than the Ancient Era. This time Yihua's opponent was a lot stronger than those overlords. They weren't people that could be killed with just a flick of a finger. Not only did he need strength, but he also needed brains. If he wanted to kill White Bones, he would have missed the perfect opportunity just now. The chances of that happening in the future would be very slim. Moreover, against such an enemy, those under the 7 deadly sins had no way of dealing with them. In fact, the slightest bit of carelessness could result in their deaths. If Yihua had not arrived in time, Dou Fushi and Li Hun would have been finished. It wasn't that they were too weak, but that their opponents were too strong. Such an opponent was not someone they could contend against. After returning back to Clear Bar, Yihua immediately called for an emergency meeting. The strength of the opponent had already surpassed Yihua's expectations. To be able to survive under the hands of my rebirth, only this Baigu would be able to do so. After receiving his honor's urgent summon, all of the subordinates hurriedly put down whatever they were doing and rushed over. Yihua even specially called Li Hun over because Li Hun was the only one who knew about what happened just now. Subordinate, we pay our respect to your honor. The opening speech is always that shocking. However, today Yihua did not have the mood to enjoy it. When he thought about how he was looked down upon by Baigu just now, Yihua immediately had a stomach full of anger. I was actually ignored by a lackey. Yihua waved his hand casually. All of 7 deadly sins subordinates saw that his honor's expression was very ugly and remained silent. Those from 7 deadly sins knew what this expression meant. That means that his honor is very angry and it is hard to appease his honor. Nan Wuxi has made his move, Yihua said coldly, and his eyes flickered with a red light. The important thing is that he made his move in front of me. Yihua shouted out angrily. Everyone gasped. This Nan Wuxi's guts are too big. He actually dared to make his move in front of his honor. Where did they get their confidence from? Dou Fushi is heavily injured. Li Hun, tell me what happened to this Baigu. Yihua stabilized the anger in his heart and remained calm. Remain calm. In Yihua's life he rarely failed. Even when he was fighting against those overlords he had never failed. He had only failed, but he had never failed before. This Baigu could be considered to have set a precedent, causing Yihua to begin questioning his own strength. Li Hun's injuries were not light, and there was even a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Everyone looked at Li Hun with a tense expression on their faces. Wei Chong felt astonished. After I gave them power, Dou Fushi would be able to do whatever he wanted in this world. As for Li Hun, because of Dou Fushi he also gained power. The 2 of them were actually beaten to such a state. This is something that has never happened before. The green and red brothers who were standing at the side were also stupefied. Dou Fushi was the same as them. He was also given power. If even Dou Fushi was beaten to such a state, then wouldn't it be the same for them? Zhou Xian also had the same thought. Of course, there was also Tang Wei and Lai Gu's 3 wives. All of them were directly given power and there was basically no chance for them to win. Death Mage could be considered as someone else. He had grasped many types of fatal magic. If he used his brain properly, he would still be able to win, but he wouldn't be able to insta-kill his opponent like before. As for Sun Fong, forget about it, she was the same as them, she didn't have any hope of winning. This also caused Yi Hua to face this problem head-on. The subordinates of subordinates should start cultivating. I am able to bestow powerful strength to my subordinates, but in the later stages my subordinates still need to work hard on their own. Just like this time I was actually beaten to such a state by someone else's underlings. I have completely lost all of my face. Your Honor, this Nan Wuqi's Baigu is just like what you saw in the video. During the battle there is no fluctuation of spiritual energy, and it is impossible to sense the position of the Baigu. The Baigu will attack from any angle and it is impossible to guard against it. Even the attacks will not have any effect on it. After Li Hun finished speaking, he stood there respectfully. You all heard it right. Even I am unable to feel the fluctuation of this Baigu's aura. Furthermore, when we were fighting, Baigu was completely unharmed. Yi Hua's words caused all of the subordinates to be stupefied. His honor actually failed. This also caused all of the subordinates to become vigilant. In the past, when we were having meetings, it was just like a joke because we were not afraid of Baigu at all. After all, Baigu's opponents were all salted fish, and Baigu's opponents could be killed with just a flick of his finger. However, this time even his honor was unable to kill Baigu. How is this possible? Zhu Tian, who was within Bream's embrace, said, Your Honor. I have also seen Baigu's video before, and adding on what Li Hun said just now, subordinate believes that Baigu is a type of race that exists in the air. During the Desolate Era there were many strange races and this Baigu is most likely one of them. As a part of the air, this Baigu is not afraid of any kind of attack, and it is commonly known as being immune to all kinds of attacks. Yi Hua nodded his head. Indeed, even when I condensed and exploded the air, I still wasn't able to kill Baigu. Your Honor, could it be that Baigu doesn't have any weaknesses? Yi Zizi asked curiously. It was rare for Lai Gu to become serious. No matter how powerful a race is, there would always be a weakness. This Baigu definitely has a weakness. Chapter 699. Yi Hua said eerily, This is still just a white bone. One of the 5 flags, and there is even a flag master. This will be the strongest opponent we've ever faced since the formation of the team. I hope that everyone can have the right attitude. People that aren't part of the 7 sins. After this matter, I hope that you all can recognize your own inadequacies. There are a lot of people that are stronger than you all. Don't stay at the same spot. What you should be cultivating, you should cultivate. If in the next few years you all still stay at the same spot, then don't blame me for being merciless. The subordinates were naturally able to sense his honor's anger, and they didn't dare to say much. Subordinates will not disappoint his honor. Also, 3 days later I will be making a trip to South Wuxia. This time Lai Gu and Yi Zizi will be following me. There's also Death Mage. As for the rest, stay on standby. It was very rare for Yi Hua to look at his opponents like this. Even when he was fighting against God raising heaven and earth, he did it with a playful attitude because God raising heaven and earth was the kind of existence that he could destroy with just a flick of his finger. However, this time when he moved his finger, God raising heaven and earth was actually not injured at all. What the hell? Yes. Lai Gu shouted out respectfully and cruelty flickered within his eyes. Yes, Yi Zizi replied sweetly, and excitement could be seen within her pair of scarlet eyes. I wonder how much stronger I will become after I absorb all of those people. GGG, Imperial Translation, understood. I still have one last question. Yi Hua asked gravely. Looking at his honor's deep gaze, the subordinates slightly lowered their heads. During the ancient era they belonged to the strong category, and the medium category, and the weak category. After finished speaking, Yi Hua disappeared from Leisure Bar. In the past, Yi Hua felt that he was invincible, but after the matter with the white bone, he knew that he was still not strong enough. He was actually unable to kill the white bone in an instant. Too weak. After Yi Hua left, everyone didn't leave and sat on the stools in Leisure Bar. A sense of defeat. A deep sense of defeat. And also a kind of shame. When his honor faced a problem that he was unable to solve, the subordinates were actually unable to help him. Furthermore, listening to his honor's tone, it seemed like he was completely unable to interfere in this kind of matter. This was a huge blow to the subordinates of the subordinates. It turned out that there was an even stronger existence. Wei Chong looked at his subordinates and said gravely, "Just now, His Honor said that although all of you have been bestowed with great power, because your lives were too peaceful, all of you neglected to cultivate. Look at the two newly born overlords as His Honor's children. All of you have to cultivate diligently every single day. As His Honor's subordinates, all of you have to work even harder. If not, how would His Honor be able to give you all missions in the future?" Hearing what Wei Chong said, everyone's hearts felt very heavy. We feel that we have let down His Honor's nurturing. Did we think that with this strength it would be enough? Today's matter had given them a lesson. It turns out that there are still people in this world that they cannot defeat. The newcomer floating battle had been beaten like a dog, unable to retaliate. Yi Hong abruptly stood up and cupped his hands, saying, "Uncle Wei will definitely cultivate well. I will not let His Honor lose face." Zhou Xian, who was sitting at the side, slightly raised her head and looked at her husband's face. Suddenly, she realized that her husband's figure in her heart had become much bigger. Lv Liang also stood up and said, "That's right. This matter is worthy for us to reflect upon." Wei Chong nodded his head. "I hope that everyone here will treat this matter seriously. This time His Honor is truly angry. If anyone doesn't cultivate hard and doesn't take out a good result, Wei Chong will not be soft-hearted." "Yes." Wei Chong nodded his head. "There is no need for you all to interfere in this matter. Go back and cultivate properly." Everyone responded respectfully, then left one after another with heavy hearts. Only 5 people from the 7 deadly sins remained. Brett hugged onto Zhu Tian and lightly caressed onto Zhu Tian. Right now, Zhu Tian had already given up on resisting, and he even revealed out a comfortable look on his face, seemingly like he was enjoying it very much. "Zizi Ligu, this time when you follow His Honor over, you have to be careful, do not underestimate the enemy," Wei Chong reminded. "Wei Chong, be at ease, this time the reason why we are going over is to fight for our face." Ligu understood why His Honor called him over. It was because His Honor wanted to teach the other party a lesson. Wei Chong nodded his head. "That's right, this time His Honor failed in front of the other party's subordinates, and His Honor is very unhappy. Wei Chong, be at ease, Yi Zizi have never been afraid of anyone," Yi Zizi said with a smile on her face. Yi Zizi was already impatient to go over to the 7 deadly sins. Right now, Brett's mission was to properly protect Zhu Tian, who was currently in a weakened state. Right now, Zhu Tian was as weak as an ordinary cat, and a fruit knife would be enough to deal with him. However, Zhu Tian jumped onto the table and said gravely, "Just now His Honor said, just what kind of existence was Nan Wuxi during the Great Era? Was he weak or was he strong? Just how many people like Nan Wuxi have yet to appear? These are all hidden dangers. Zhu Tian, the Great Era has already passed for a very long time, and the information that is left behind is too little. If it wasn't for Zhou Xian seeing a little of the information, we wouldn't even know that they were people from the Great Era." Brett let out a light sigh. The Great Era was too far away, it was even far away from the Ancient Era, and no one knew what kind of powerful existences existed during the Great Era. This time Yi Zizi had only managed to touch a little bit of the Great Era. Zhu Tian took a glare at Brett. "Women, your hair is long but your knowledge is short. Although we don't know, we still have to take precautions. As the subordinates of the Supreme Overlord, this is something that we have to do," Zhu Tian shouted out seriously. From the looks of it, the sudden incident this time was a good thing for the entire team. After all, the team was too pessimistic, thinking that they were invincible, they didn't even need to train. However, the arrival of White Bones gave the entire team a lesson. Even Yi Hua felt that he was still too weak. "If I can't insta-kill all of my enemies, then I, the Supreme Overlord, am not the strongest. Therefore, I, the Supreme Overlord, am going to go into closed-door training for 3 days. I need to properly think about life. Nothing can stop me from becoming stronger. Nothing can stop me from becoming stronger." Inside Voidless Realm, Qingya and Donghuang Baiji were very worried about Yi Hua's situation, and right after they came back, they locked themselves inside the room. It seems like Yi Hua was beaten into a closed-door training. "Qingya, what should we do?" Donghuang Baiji asked worriedly. Ever since she met Yi Hua, this was the first time she saw Yi Hua acting like this. Xianxia said worriedly, I'm afraid that today's incident is a huge blow to Yihua. Just now I found out from Zhou Xian that Yihua started scolding Yihua. Sai, we are actually unable to help Yihua at all. Donghuang Baiji started blaming herself a bit. As a wife, she didn't want to be a vase. Although Yihua often told them that it would be fine for them to be as beautiful as flowers and leave the rest to him, Donghuang Baiji and Donghuang Baiji felt that they were useless. However, if something really happened to Yihua, the two wives would feel that they were useless. Chapter 700. Happy. Donghuang Baiji was puzzled. How can I make Yihua happy? A second later, Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji took a look at each other. To make Yihua happy, there seems to be only one way. Right now, Yihua was sitting cross-legged in his bedroom. Perhaps it was because he hadn't cultivated for a long time, he was unable to calm down. When he thought of the arrogant tone of the white bones, his lungs were about to explode from anger. One of Nan Wuqi's underlings actually dared to be arrogant in front of me, and I can't do anything to him at all. This won't do, I must calm down and start cultivating. I must not be disturbed by the outside world. I must insta-kill you all and make you all tremble under my power. Just like this, no one is allowed to disturb my cultivation. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Cultivation will make me happy. Just as Yihua was hypnotizing himself, two beautiful figures suddenly appeared in front of him. Looking at Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji, Yihua's firm face stiffened. Even though he often sees the two of them, he couldn't help but respect them right now. Xianxia could be seen wearing a black spaghetti top. Her long and beautiful legs were wrapped by lace stockings. Her skirt was already as low as it could get, and there was a black unknown fabric covering her bra. Her flat lower abdomen did not have the slightest bit of fat, and coupled with that beautiful face of hers, any man would definitely explode, including me. And the Empress was actually wearing a set of white spaghetti top for the first time. Different from Xianxia's black spaghetti top, what the Empress was wearing was a pair of white silk stockings with a net, which was even more explosive. The lace small skirt would occasionally sway, and even Yihua's heart would sway. The Empress's chest was the kind that was extremely full, and Yihua often couldn't bear to part with it. And today the Empress had specially wrapped her chest up, and this was simply a visual impact. Yihua had never seen the two of them dressed like this before. It wasn't that I didn't request to dress like this before, but rather, all of my requests were rejected. In the past you were unwilling to dress like this, but today when I started cultivating I came. You two are going against me, right? Do you think that I will give up cultivating just because you are dressed like this? That's impossible. Just as Yihua was determined in his heart. The Empress took out a steel pipe from God knows where and directly inserted it into the ground. This caused Yihua's heart to skip a beat. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji could be seen lightly stroking the big and thick steel pipe. This scene caused Yihua to feel like he was about to explode as he gulped down his saliva. Yihua, Xianxia shouted out tenderly. Her charming eyes were like silk and she even stuck out her tongue to lick the corner of her mouth. The Empress twisted her body slightly and bit her lower lip lightly. Her slender legs were wrapped around the steel pipe. Why did I suddenly want to be that steel pipe? Donghuang Baiji let out her alluring voice. Yihua, what are you sitting there for? Aren't you going to come over? Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji didn't know that their husband was planning to cultivate at all, and they thought that their husband was just feeling unhappy, and that's why they were thinking of ways to make their husband happy. If they knew that Yihua was cultivating, they definitely wouldn't have come to disturb him. Looking at how his two wives were acting, Yihua was struggling in his heart. They still needed to cultivate. I am a man. Moreover, it was a man who was determined to cultivate. To go and cultivate or to roll in bed with my wives. If I were to get killed by someone one day, it would all be their fault. To do such a thing while I am cultivating, these two truly are vixens. Yihua could be seen walking straight towards the two wives, then carrying them into his embrace, then walking towards the bed. A storm of blood suddenly erupted. Xianxia and Donghuang Baiji were especially attentive, and they were doing their best to make their husband happy. Today, when they saw the disappointed look on their husband's face, their hearts ached endlessly, and they hoped that doing so would be able to alleviate their husband's mood. Speaking of which, it was quite effective, just that it took a bit too long. 3 days passed by very quickly. Voidless Realm's morning was still so comfortable. God Yi and Yi Lu fought with each other every day while Dong Huangli and Yi Yan sat at the side and watched. Yi Yan rubbed his swollen eyes. It has already been 3 days and father and mother still haven't come out yet. Are they cultivating? They should be. Dong Huangli laid on the table and seemed very bored. I heard that father encountered some difficulties. Yi Yan said sneakily. The children still didn't know about this matter. The news was sealed and Dou Fusher was also tight-lipped. Dong Huangli hammered onto the stone table with her small fists. We are still too young, father and mother don't want us to know too much. That's right, I really hope that I can grow up faster so that I can help father. Yi Yan really hopes that he can grow up faster. When the time comes he will be able to help his father fight for the world. Rumble. Yi Yan rubbed onto his stomach embarrassedly. Dong Huangli patted onto her little brother's shoulder. You should eat your fill first before you grow up. The food that aunt cooks is so disgusting. Yi Yan said in pain. For the past 3 days, the little fellow had been eating at Qin Yutong's place. Qin Yutong didn't know how to cook at all and thus the little fellow could only take out a tablet and learn how to cook. After getting used to eating the food that their mother cooks, the 4 little fellows' mouths had all become picky, which was why such a situation occurred. Alright, aunt has been very tired these past few days. You have to understand, aunt. Dong Huangli said helplessly. Looking at the time, Dong Huangli stood up and shouted out, Everyone stop for a moment, let's go and eat first. God Yi and Yi Lu's little faces froze, then they squeezed out a smile and said, Sister brother, you guys go ahead. We're not hungry. Yes, I'll practice with big brother a little more, Yi Lu said seriously. Eating was out of the question. Dong Huangli walked forward, then directly held onto her younger brother and younger sister's wrists. We are brothers and sisters, we have to face difficulties together. If you want to run away, don't even think about it. Big sister. Sister. Dong Huangli didn't care about all that and she directly pulled Qin Yutong into Qin Yutong's bedroom. However, as soon as they stepped through the door, the little fellows smelled a fragrant aroma. A sumptuous breakfast was laid out on the table. There were all kinds of dishes such as steamed buns, fried dough sticks, millet porridge and even rice noodles with beef. Qin Yutong sat at the side with a smile on her face. The food that I make is not delicious and furthermore it is a waste of time, so I might as well go out and buy it back. Isn't that much easier? Little fellows, quickly come and eat breakfast. Qin Yutong lightly smiled and said. With a puzzled expression on their faces, the 4 little fellows sat on the stool, and the smell that was being emitted from the food was causing their stomachs to call out. Alright, aunt doesn't have that many rules here, quickly eat. Thank you, aunt. The 4 little fellows shouted out in unison, then began crazily picking up the food on the table and eating ferociously. While eating, Qin Yutong shouted out, It's so fragrant. Looking at the 4 little fellows wolfing down the food, Qin Yutong let out a breath. In the future I can only do this, the food that I make.